Chapter 830. The underlying meaning was that if Zi Qianqian still wanted to stir up any trouble, she wouldn't bother about the Death God mercenary group's life or death. Zi Qianqian's back instantly felt a chill, and when he met Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes, he felt as though something was strangling his neck, making it hard for him to breathe. Perhaps it was Yi Qing Luo's words which made Zi Qianqian sense the seriousness of the situation. Or perhaps it was Yi Qing Luo's imposing manner which suppressed Zi Qianqian so much that he had no way to resist. Zi Qianqian's hand stiffly released Yi Qing Luo's wrist as he took half a step back. The expression on his beautiful face was congealed and stiff. Yi Qing Luo retracted her gaze as the blade speedily cut the wound on Nangong Firen's arm, which had already stopped bleeding. The medicinal powder which stopped the bleeding was swiftly dissolved and cleaned up. The wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change as she directly cut the wound even bigger. Blood started to gush out immediately. The Death God mercenary group's mercenaries' hearts were filled with terror. Wandering on the blade's edge for several decades, they had experienced all sorts of dangerous missions, but they had never done such a strange mission. They could kill any demon, magical beast or mirage beast without any expression. But unfortunately, this time round they were facing a ghost. For these mercenaries to reach their current position, whose hands weren't stained with blood. Naturally, he was extremely afraid of this kind of thing. Especially the fear which the corpse puppets and worms brought to them, had already seeped deep into their bones. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's agile actions, no one went up to stop her. At this moment, Long Yunzhan's icy cold eyes swept past everyone without any warmth as he spoke calmly, "Do a head count." Qiao Jin and the others responded and started to count the number of people. After around half an incense's time, the few of them counted the number of people. The World Mercenary Group has a total of 96 people who entered King Ling's tomb. Currently there are 96 people left and 3 of them have some external injuries. Death God Mercenary Group has a total of 37 people who entered King Ling's tomb. Currently there are 13 people left and 5 injured. When the head count was done, the Death God Mercenary Group's mercenaries' faces flushed red. Even Zi Qianqian, who had his eyes on top of his head, had unnaturally shifted his vision away, embarrassed to look at the World Mercenary Group. From the data, it could be seen who was the real lousy teammate. Long Yunzhan did not use these numbers to speak. He continued coldly, "Take advantage of this opportunity to properly nurse your body and strength. Right now, I can't be sure how long this stone wall can stop those corpse puppets. If a battle really breaks out later, you can only rely on yourself." It was rare for Long Yunzhan to speak for such a long time, so the World Group's mercenaries immediately responded in unison. On the Azura Group's side, they looked at each other. Finally, under Yi Fengru's signal, they all sat cross-legged on the ground, closed their eyes, and stabilized the chaotic internal force in their bodies. The World Group, on the other hand, took out the prepared rations and water bags from their space pockets, passing them down one by one as they ate the rations in big mouthfuls. The Killing God Group and a dozen other mercenaries smelled the fragrance and immediately opened their eyes. Even in this kind of atmosphere, the ordinary dry rations that they usually disdained to eat seemed especially fragrant at this moment. 10 over mercenaries' stomachs couldn't help but let out a growl in response. They had been guarding the World Group outside the tomb since early in the morning and later on in King Ling's tomb, walking for over 2 hours, and having experienced so many hair-raising matters, all their energy had been depleted. Chapter 831. Yi Fengru, who had received the space bag, had a glint in his gloomy eyes. His fingers tightened slightly as he stiffly passed it to the mercenaries beside him. The Death God Group's mercenaries were all stuffing their stomachs without saying a word as their gazes were fixed on Yi Qing Luo, who was still helping Nangong Firen to expel the corpse qi. She was obviously a 15-year-old young lady, looking so immature, and her profound qi was so weak, but she was able to take up such a heavy burden. Everything in the tomb was all because of this young lady. They were lucky enough to survive. They had no choice but to admit that after experiencing these 2 hours of matters, they were only left with a bellyful of admiration towards this 15-year-old young lady. Yiqing Luo followed Old Man Tsang's instructions as she swiftly operated the actions in her hands. It was all thanks to the numerous precious medicinal herbs which Dmo Xian had prepared in the profound phoenix ring. Combined with the medicinal herbs and profound qi, under the dual pressure, that lump of blood which was emitting green fog was finally expelled after 1 hour. Yiqing Luo used the oiled paper to wrap that pool of blood and wiped it clean without leaving a single trace. Following that, she stood up straight as she casually threw the oiled paper to Zi Qianqian. If you don't want to attract the worms, then take good care of this bag of tainted blood. Saying that, she turned around and walked towards Long Yunzhan's direction. She received the dry rations and water bag from Long Yunzhan and started to gobble it down in big mouthfuls. What should we do now? Long Yunzhan appeared slightly worried as his brows creased slightly as he glanced at the direction of the Death God group. More than 20 mercenaries from the Killing God group had died. If it wasn't for the fact that they had great teamwork and were able to listen to Yiqing Luo's instructions at the fastest speed. Probably after the Death God group's mercenaries were all dead, the World group would not be spared. If they really followed the plan which they had before coming, which was Long Yunzhan and the rest escorting their brothers out of the Ling King's tomb, while Yiqing Luo followed the Death God mercenaries to find a chance to complete the mission. Long Yunzhan would not agree to it no matter what. After all, not only did the Death God mercenaries have an ulterior motive towards Yiqing Luo, Long Yunzhan also doubted the Death God mercenaries' ability. If Yiqing Luo and the Death God mercenaries were to stay, these people would probably become Yiqing Luo's burden. Yiqing Luo wiped the water from the corner of her mouth and placed the water bag back into her space pocket. She squinted her eyes and looked at the strange totem on the rock wall, which looked like it had been splashed with blood. Her slender brows frowned slightly. I'm afraid it's impossible to return the way we came. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists and immediately shut her eyes. We fell directly from the outer perimeter, and even if we were to return using the original route, we would at most reach the place where we fell. Isn't there another road over there? Let's go that way, and we'll be able to find the entrance to the periphery. Zi Qianqian anxiously spoke. After staying in such a gloomy place for so long, she could no longer endure it. Yiqing Luo didn't open her eyes as her lips curled into a ridiculing arc. Then go ahead and try. In this tomb of the Ling King, there were not only 2 mercenary groups. There was also a group of powerful existences hidden in the dark. The commotion caused by that wave of power was enough to cause the periphery of the tomb to collapse. It could be seen that the people from that wave of power should have directly entered from the middle level and reached the bottom level. Only thing was not sure what method that wave of power used to be able to bypass the 5 corpses and the Guardian King corpses to directly enter the main tomb of the Ling King, causing a commotion. Along the way, they didn't meet with any mechanisms or arrays. If Yiqing Luo didn't guess wrongly, it should have been cleared by that wave of power. So if they were to return using the original route, that route would definitely be filled with mechanisms and arrays. Chapter 832. Especially until now, that hidden force had yet to reveal itself. Yiqing Luo didn't believe that they had created such a huge commotion and that force had yet to discover it. Before she could guess the motive of that hidden force, Yiqing Luo didn't intend to act rashly. If Zi Qianqian wanted to court death, she wouldn't stop him. But those with brains would know that if they chose to try their luck to find the middle-level exit alone, it was simply courting death. As expected, Zi Qianqian shut his mouth. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes, as though she was taking a nap to recover her energy. In actual fact, she was asking Old Man Tsang in her mind if there was any way to restrain the corpse puppet. God Thief couldn't explain, but it didn't mean that Old Man Tsang, who had lived for thousands of years, didn't know. 1 hour and there's no sound of the corpse puppets chasing after us. Apparently these corpse puppets are afraid of fire. Yiqing Luo pondered and said, but ordinary fire, I'm afraid there's no way to burn these 5 high-leveled corpse puppets. Sigh. If I had let you pass the 2nd level of the Purgatory Tower earlier, you wouldn't be in such a predicament now. Old Man Tsang sighed helplessly. The 2nd level's reward can restrain the high-leveled corpse puppets? Yiqing Luo frowned as her eyes shone brightly. But in a blink of an eye, it dimmed down. Challenging the 1st level of the Purgatory Tower would take at least 1 day's time. Those 5 corpse puppets probably wouldn't give her the time to challenge them. And being in the Ling King's tomb, she wasn't at ease to directly extract her soul consciousness to challenge the Purgatory Tower. If any accident happened and her physical body was damaged, her soul consciousness and soul would be damaged. She couldn't take this risk. Whether you can restrain them or not, it's useless to say more now. Old Man Tsang realized that he had revealed the 2nd level of Purgatory's reward and immediately changed the topic. 5 high-leveled corpse puppet strength is equivalent to 5 sky mystic overlords. Just based on your strength, to defeat the 5 corpses is as difficult as ascending to heaven. Don't keep saying it's difficult. Give me some useful advice. Yiqing Luo wanted to roll her eyes. At this moment, couldn't Old Man Tsang be straight to the point? Old Man Tsang remained silent for a moment before he slowly said, actually, there's another way, but your profound jade heart might not be able to support it. Right now, the profound jade heart in Yiqing Luo's heart had already shown some abnormalities. If he forcefully used the power of the profound jade heart in order to defeat the 5 corpses. Your target isn't the 5 corpses, but the Guardian Corpse King. Once the 5 corpses die, the Guardian Corpse King will awaken. At that time, without the profound heart jade, you, who are extremely weak, might not even be able to resist a normal corpse puppet. Old Man Tsang's voice was exceptionally heavy. Yiqing Luo's brows twitched a few times. Say it. The atmosphere was heavy. Another hour passed. Yiqing Luo's eyes were still shut, without any reaction. If it wasn't for the occasional movement of her eyelashes, everyone would have suspected that she was asleep. There were already people on the Azura group's side who felt increasingly terrified and strange under this kind of tranquil atmosphere, and only wanted to quickly leave this place. But unfortunately, Yiqing Luo had no intention to take action. At this moment, a loud and clear howl of a corpse broke the silence. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Their gazes were all focused on the stone wall. Before the crowd could recover from their shock, the tomb began to tremble violently once more. It was accompanied by sharp howls from the corpse hag. It was the turbulence caused by the corpse hag crashing against the stone wall. Everyone's faces were steely green as one by one they shrunk towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo slowly opened her eyes, as she squinted her eyes and gazed at the stone wall. Chapter 833. Indeed, her guess was right. That blazing fire obstructed the 5 corpse puppets for close to 2 hours. The corpse puppets were refined from dried corpses 1,000 years ago. Other than the black robe, there was only a set of skeleton left. Naturally, they were afraid of being burned by the fire. If it had been an ordinary corpse puppet, that wave of raging fire would have burned it to ashes. Looked like the method that Old Man Tsang mentioned earlier. She might pong, 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 pong. The sound of the corpse puppets hitting the stone wall became increasingly violent. Every time it shook, it seemed to affect one's heart as it kept twitching. Nangong Lin was so scared that she broke out in cold sweat as her face was filled with tears. Run. Let's run. Who knows when those corpse puppets will break this stone wall open? Nangong Firen leaned against the stone wall as the back of his head touched those slippery vines, which made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Hearing Nangong Lin's whimpering, he frowned slightly as he glanced sideways at his arm, which had been bandaged, and his target fell onto Yiqing Luo. After the corpse qi was expelled from his body, His body finally regained its temperature, and his body temperature gradually returned to normal. Moving his arm, there was no pain coming from the wound. Nangong Firen closed his eyes as the image of Yi Qing Luo's stunning face appeared in his mind. She pursed her lips tightly as she treated his wound indifferently. He should say that Yi Qing Luo was quick-witted enough to know that under such circumstances, one more person's strength meant one more chance of survival, so she specially used a medicinal powder to numb the pain on his wound. Or should he say that Yi Qing Luo was heartless to those who weren't her companions? Once this medicinal powder was used, after the medicinal effect had worn off, he would suffer hundreds of times more pain than now. Seventh sister, even if this stone wall can stop the corpse puppets, but this tomb will collapse any time. We'd better think of a way to leave this place first. Yi Fengru's voice revealed his gentleness at this moment. He lowered his eyelids as he gently patted the sobbing Nangong Lin who was in his arms. Everyone's gaze immediately focused on Yi Qing Luo. To leave or not to leave, everything depended on Yi Qing Luo's decision. Yi Qing Luo's expression was calm as her lips curled into a faint cold arc. Can we leave? It's still better than sitting here and waiting for death. Yi Fengru's gentle eyebrows knitted together, and his eyes flashed with a trace of gloominess. Don't want to sit still and wait for death? Yi Qing Luo's gaze moved as she looked at Yi Fengru. Yi Fengru twisted his eyebrows. That gaze made him feel a chill run down his spine. But the arrow had already been knocked, and he could only clench his teeth and nod. The Death God squad cannot lose any more brothers. All right. Yi Qing Luo slowly stood up and walked to the front of the stone wall, her gaze calm and indifferent. Then, for the sake of your Azura group's brothers, I need your help. Yi Fengru was startled. The surrounding mercenaries all looked at him with hopeful eyes. Even if he didn't want to, he had to agree. All right. As long as you can guarantee that everyone will survive. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about Yi Fengru's words and directly turned around to look at the mercenaries from both sides and began to instruct them on what to do next. The tomb continued to shake. Gravel fell, and cracks gradually appeared on the ground. The corpse puppet was still hitting the stone wall. On this side, under Yi Qing Luo's arrangement, the mercenaries stood in their positions. Just as the last mercenary was about to complete his task, the stone wall suddenly exploded with a loud bang. Countless gravel flew straight towards the mercenaries' faces. The 10 Over Azura group's members who stood in the front row immediately shut their eyes and moved their heads to one side. Yi Qing Luo had instructed them to stand firmly on the spot no matter what. They cursed silently in their hearts if Yi Qing Luo had intentionally arranged for them to stand firmly at the front. Chapter 834. The whistling wind kept ringing beside their ears as it swept up the incoming gravel. Bam! The gravel was blown off its trajectory as it crashed onto the rock wall. First row attack. Yi Qing Luo's calm commanding voice was heard beside their ears. The mercenaries instinctively obeyed the command as they raised the weapons in their hands and attacked towards the 5 corpse puppets in front of them. After the rock wall was smashed open, those 5 corpse puppets instantly rushed up. The 5 corpses were burnt by the intense fire, and even though they had swallowed the air freshener pill, that burnt stench was faintly discernible in their noses. Perhaps it was because they had been burnt earlier, which infuriated the 5 corpses. The 5 corpses' howls were mournful and strange, making one's heart tremble. The first row of mercenaries were all members of the Azura group. Recalling Yi Qing Luo's serious instructions, even though they were terrified, they still went up to attack and started the mission which Yi Qing Luo had given them. The few of them worked together, but there was no way to win the advanced corpse puppet. After they wrapped the things which Yi Qing Luo had passed to them onto the 5 corpses, they swiftly retreated. The second row of mercenaries immediately went up to them. The corpse puppets had strong explosive power, but they were after all refined by arrays. Other than exterminating all the living creatures in the tomb and merging them into one with themselves, they didn't know how to think about other things. Because of this, these mercenaries listened to Yi Qing Luo's instructions and wouldn't go head-on against the corpse puppet. Only when the front row attracted the attention of the corpse puppets, the back row swiftly wrapped the things onto the 5 corpses. Following that was the 3rd row, 4th row. By the time all the mercenaries had completed their mission and retreated to one side, they saw a black shadow leaping over the top of the tomb. It was Yi Qing Luo. She stood in the middle of the 5 corpses as her eyes were filled with a chilly glint. The black outfit wrapped around the lady's slender petite figure and the cherry blossom on her arm was extremely eye-catching. Her slender fingers held a red feather fan, and while she didn't dare to move her fingertips, a gush of powerful aura exploded from her. Huff, 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 a strong gust of wind swept everything in the tomb. It was clearly only the energy of a low-level profound practitioner, yet the imposing aura it emanated and the profound energy that swept out from the feather fan was so sharp, unstoppable, and intimidating. Yi Qing Luo's footwork changed rapidly, not daring to make any mistake. The feather fan in his hand was constantly fluctuating with profound qi. She guided the 5 corpse puppets to move in her designated position. Those 5 corpse puppets, after chasing Yi Qing Luo for several rounds, started to howl in anger to demonstrate their might. The eerie white bone skeleton fingers turned into sharp weapons, as it directly struck towards Yi Qing Luo from all directions. Vice Commander Qing Luo. Everyone was on tenterhooks as they broke out in cold sweat while looking at Yi Qing Luo, even holding their breath. There was no way to hide. Yi Qing Luo half squinted her eyes as her feather fan flipped over her fingertips, and like a ball of moving raging fire, it floated into the air. The corners of her mouth curled into a cold smile, and a vortex of raging flames shot down from the feather fan. It looked like a fire dragon with its mouth wide open. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo's delicate body swayed. The footwork under her feet became increasingly fast and strange, making people only able to see an afterimage. Only to see Yi Qing Luo stepping on the corpse puppet, leaping up. With a somersault, she was already standing on top of the open feather fan. It was as if she was suspended in mid-air on top of the flame, blooming a gorgeous flower. That fire dragon opened its mouth and swiftly swallowed the corpse puppet completely. Yi Qing Luo landed lightly on the ground, stretched out her 5 fingers and the feather fan returned to her palm. Chapter 835. That's right, stare. Those 5 corpse puppets which were shrouded in black robes all raised their heads at this moment. Under the black robes, there were pairs of faint green glows. They couldn't see their eyes or eyeballs. Only 2 balls of faint green light were embedded on those eerie white bones. It was extremely terrifying. Yi Qing Luo retreated to the mercenary group's side as she turned her head towards Yi Fengru. Second brother, release your heart flame. Standing by the side, Yi Fengru, who didn't understand what Yi Qing Luo needed his help, was stunned. Heart flame? Yi Qing Luo nodded calmly. Release your heart flame, the purer the better, the more vigorous the better. Yi Fengru's brows creased tightly, not understanding the meaning of Yi Qing Luo's words. Before he could ask, those 5 corpse puppets which had dispersed the fire dragon leapt towards their direction furiously. 12 balls of faint green light whizzed towards their faces, bringing along a gust of chilly air. Yi Fengru was so shocked that he retreated several steps as his heart pounded and his legs turned soft as his body kept shivering. Heart flame! By his ear was Yi Qing Luo's anxious roar. Yi Fengru didn't dare to ask what was the purpose of releasing her heart flame, as he subconsciously used his profound jade heart's energy to condense a ball of heart flame as he shot it towards the corpse puppets. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo's heart flame was also released. Those 5 corpse puppets which pounced over were still on the original spot as they continued to struggle, but were not able to move an inch. As though they were imprisoned on the original spot, unable to move. It's silver threads. It's the World Group's Vice Group leader's silver threads. Some mercenaries pointed out the reason why the corpse puppets were unable to move. The crowd followed the glow from the luminous pearl and looked over. They saw those 5 corpse puppets' black robes were all stuck with silver threads which glowed with a cold glint. The silver threads intertwined and penetrated through the surrounding rock walls, forming a silver thread cage which bound the corpse puppets tightly, totally unable to move. Following the direction of the silver threads, the last place which the silver threads bound was that feather fan in Yi Qing Luo's hands. The mercenaries suddenly realized the reason why Yi Qing Luo gave each row of mercenaries a piece of silver wire to wrap around the corpse puppet's body and immediately change to the next row. And earlier, Yi Qing Luo used her strange footwork to constantly change her direction, leading the corpse puppet to scurry around, in order to fix the silver threads on the corpse puppet onto the 2 sides of the rock walls, and to form an invisible cage. The Killing God group's mercenaries' hearts were filled with shock, which made their admiration towards Yi Qing Luo unable to be expressed in words. A 15-year-old girl actually possessed such a sharp mind and strength. At this moment, these mercenaries didn't bother to ask what Yi Qing Luo needed Yi Fengru's heart flame for. Even Zi Qianqian remained silent and did not speak. The power of the heart flame was only a flame spark used by alchemists to refine medicinal pills. It could only be used to refine medicinal pills. It was useless for other things. Yi Qing Luo wanted to use her heart flame to burn the corpse puppet? This thought was soon confirmed. After Yi Qing Luo and Yi Fengru released the power of their heart flame, Yi Qing Luo's entire body seemed as though it was enveloped by a ball of blazing fire. But in an instant, that powerful energy had completely fused the 2's heart flame's energy, directly crashing onto the corpse puppet which was bound. Everyone's vision fell onto the corpse puppet's side. After the heart flame fell onto the corpse puppet's body, it instantly engulfed the 5 corpse puppet. In the air, there was an extremely unpleasant burnt smell. No one discovered that the powerful energy earlier was shot out from Yi Qing Luo's wrist. Chapter 836. The corpse puppets were afraid of fire. Ordinary flames were unable to incinerate the corpse puppet. But as an alchemist, she could use the power of the heart flame condensed from the profound jade heart and borrow old man Tsang's power to force the heart flame out of her body, and then she could incinerate the corpse puppet. The heart flame was indeed used to refine pills. To other living things, it had no use at all. But to the corpse puppets it was extremely useful. She only needed to treat the corpse puppets as pills to refine. But the current Yi Qing Luo, releasing the heart flame to incinerate the corpse puppets. The consequences were very serious. Old man Tsang didn't recommend her to do so, but the arrow was already on the bow. Yi Qing Luo had no other choice. Her profound jade heart had already reacted. If she released the heart flame to incinerate the corpse puppets, it was very likely to cause damage to her profound jade heart. The power of the heart flame was in fact the power of the jade heart condensed from the profound jade heart. If Yi Qing Luo forcefully expended the power of the profound jade heart, once it was damaged, she was very likely to become an ordinary person who had lost her profound jade heart. In the Ling King's tomb, once she became an ordinary person, and was so weak that she had no ability to retaliate. There was no way she could survive. This was the reason why old man Tsang asked Yi Qing Luo to consider carefully. Because of this, she specially called Yi Fengru, who was also an alchemist. Although Yi Fengru was a dark alchemist, but his heart flame was still used to refine pills. The 5 corpse puppets kept brandishing their claws, howling in pain, trying to escape the binding of the silver thread, trying to escape the burning of the heart flame. They didn't have any rationality, didn't know how to think, but, facing the feeling that was about to disappear from this world, they still had. But alas, no matter how their sharp bones tried to tear that cold silver thread, no matter how they tried, they were unable to move the silver thread at all. The intensity of the heart flame was getting fiercer and fiercer, with a visible glow, directly burned to the top of the rock wall. Increase the strength of the heart flame. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, looking at the struggling corpse puppets. Although in pain, but not completely burnt out, she gritted her teeth and berated in a stern voice. This degree of fire was probably not enough to incinerate the 5 advanced corpse puppets. Lulu, prepare to release the heart flame, the last step, all depends on you. Yiqing Luo turned her head and looked at Bei Ming Lulu, who was already prepared. Bei Ming Lulu nodded her head vigorously. Within the azure dew bracelet, Old Man Tsang raised his voice and growled, "Girl, you're too reckless. If this goes on, before the corpse puppet is completely incinerated, my profound jade heart's energy will be depleted and I won't be able to release the power of my heart flame." The current situation didn't allow Yiqing Luo to decide whether she was willing or not. At the very least, right now, she could still guarantee the survival of her group of brothers by forcefully consuming the power of the profound jade heart. Otherwise, when the power of the heart fire could no longer be released, all of them would be fused by the enraged corpse puppet. Yifeng Ru's forehead was already dripping with cold sweat. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he almost couldn't catch his breath. If this goes on, our profound jade heart will exhaust its energy. After the power of the profound jade heart was exhausted, it would take at least 3 to 5 days to recover. Yiqing Luo dared to use such a risky method? Didn't you say that for the sake of our brother's survival, you would do anything? Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly as her lips curled into a smirk of ridicule. Why, you can't even do such a small thing? At this moment, if one were to take a closer look, one would be able to tell that Yiqing Luo's eyes were hiding a smear of strenuous effort and stubbornness. Only, when Yifeng Ru heard Yiqing Luo's ridicule, his attention had already been diverted. He secretly clenched his teeth, and could only release the power of the heart flame even more ferociously. Chapter 837. In her chest, there seemed to be a raging fire, incessantly burning. Wave after wave of scorching sensation whizzed towards her heart. Yiqing Luo's breathing became heavy. She clenched her teeth, forcing herself to take a deep breath, trying hard to maintain the momentum of the heart fire. Lass, you can't continue to be brave. Let the divine doctor from the Bei Ming family come over and take over. This profound jade heart of yours can no longer be used up. Old Man Tsang's tone was solemn as he berated her. Yiqing Luo herself also felt it. The place where the profound jade heart was hidden was completely scorching hot, as though it was about to expand and explode. That profound jade heart was also trembling non-stop, constantly sending out warnings. It wasn't that she wasn't willing to stop. But now was a critical juncture. If she stopped, she would definitely not have the energy to support another breath, to release the heart fire. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath. Sweat drenched her black hair, sweat dripping down from her forehead, wet her eyelashes. In the haze, she saw the corpse puppet that was restrained by the silver silk cage, had already lost the strength to struggle. That wide black robe gradually turned into ashes. That ghastly white skeleton gradually turned into ashes. She fiercely took a deep breath, once again activated the profound jade heart's energy, increasing the intensity of the fire. Lulu! She called out. Bei Ming Lulu was already prepared, immediately releasing the power of the heart fire, making the last wave of heart fire attack. After Bei Ming Lulu's heart fire merged with the other 2 balls of heart fire, with a whoosh, the intensity of the fire once again rushed to the top of the rock wall. SSSS, Hua, a crisp shattering sound, came from Yiqing Luo's body. When the 5 corpse puppets were burnt to ashes, Yiqing Luo's body fell softly to the ground at the same time. The profound jade heart couldn't hold on, directly shattered in her heart. Yiqing Luo could even clearly feel that the 2 halves of the profound jade heart gradually disappeared, without a trace of breath. Pain immediately attacked her entire body. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly, her petite body lying on the ground, trembling slightly. Yifeng Ru also went limp by the side, panting heavily, wiping off the sweat on his head. Finally, dealt with the 5 corpse puppets. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to hold on any longer. Yi Fengru was sweating profusely, panting heavily as he turned his head to look at the girl beside him. Yi Qingluo's condition seemed to be much more serious than his. His face was deathly pale and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. She trembled and lay on the ground powerlessly. Even her breathing was so light that it seemed like it would stop in the next second. Yi Fengru's handsome face revealed a faintly discernible expression. His eyes slowly narrowed, and a sharp glint flashed in his eyes for a moment before disappearing. Jean. Yi Qingluo's voice was extremely weak as she slowly raised her hand, wanting to ask Long Yunzhan to carry her away. She knew that after losing the profound heart jade, she would become an ordinary person. However, he didn't expect that he would be so weak. She couldn't even move her body. Now, even a Tom, Dick, or Harry could easily take her life. Yi Qingluo gave a bitter smile as her lips twitched. Long Yunzhan's heart had been hanging by a thread, as he kept an eye on Yi Qingluo's condition. The minute he heard Yi Qingluo calling his name, he immediately walked over. Only, the next second, Long Yunzhan's expressionless face turned steely green and black. Yi Fengru. Long Yunzhan's icy cold voice sharply called out Yi Fengru's name. Yi Qingluo was in a daze, almost fainting. Suddenly her body felt heavy and she hazily opened her eyes, meeting Yi Fengru's gloomy eyes. Chapter 838. Yi Qingluo's slender brows creased slightly as her charming eyes flashed with a biting cold glint. What do you want to do? The corner of Yi Fengru's mouth curled up, his gloomy eyes filled with madness. The Death God mercenary group's purpose for appearing here, aren't you very clear? For the Phoenix Ring. Yi Qingluo's complexion instantly turned paler. Yi Fengru wanted to take advantage of her weakness to steal the profound Phoenix Ring? He didn't want to think too much about it. Yi Fengru had already used his actions to confirm his thoughts. Yi Fengru grabbed Yi Qingluo's arm tightly. His fingers nimbly pinched the profound Phoenix Ring on her index finger and tugged hard. Despicable. Yi Qingluo gritted her teeth and spat out 2 words. She didn't have the slightest bit of strength to struggle. The sharp pain in her heart made her lose the strength to struggle. This was the profound Phoenix Ring that Dmo Xian had given her. No one could take away the profound Phoenix Ring. Yi Qingluo bit her lower lip tightly, trying to use the pain to raise her spirits. Long Yunzhan wanted to step forward, but Yi Fengru used Yi Qingluo's life as a threat. The mercenaries of the World Mercenary Group didn't dare to act rashly. The current Yi Qingluo, anyone could tell that she was so weak that she had no ability to retaliate. Their hearts were burning with anxiety, and their eyes were filled with hatred and resentment as they looked at Yi Fengru. This was the kind of person who burned the bridge after crossing the river. Yi Fengru kept twisting the profound Phoenix Ring. Yi Qingluo's fair fingers were already covered with circles of red marks from his rough actions. But the profound Phoenix Ring was still firmly on Yi Qingluo's index finger, and there was no way to remove it. Seventh sister, I advise you to be tactful and hand over the profound Phoenix Ring. Otherwise, don't blame me for being heartless. Yi Fengru's eyes were filled with madness. This kind of expression, this kind of words filled with threat. However, his tone was still as gentle as ever. It made one's hair stand on end. The Phoenix Ring was a divine artifact. After a divine artifact recognized a master, no one other than the master could use it. Just like the profound Phoenix Ring, other than Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian, no one else could take the ring off from her hands. Yi Qingluo no longer had the energy to speak as her misty eyes couldn't conceal the sharpness in her eyes. Yi Fengru snorted, and a dagger appeared in his hand. Yi Fengru, if you dare to touch a single strand of Qingluo's hair, I will immediately exterminate your Azura group. Long Yunzhan's deep and cold voice was hurriedly heard. The corners of Yi Fengru's mouth curled up in a crazed smile as he stared at the profound Phoenix Ring. As long as I can get the profound Phoenix Ring, so what if I kill everyone? As long as you still care about this beautiful and moving seventh sister, you won't dare to make a move against me. Yi Fengru had grasped the world group's sentiments and loyalty very clearly. As long as they held on to Yi Qing Luo, those youngsters wouldn't dare to act rashly. There's still poison on your body, and without Qing Luo's antidote, you will act up again in 2 hours' time. Qiao Jin shouted angrily, silently cursing Yi Fengru for being despicable and shameless. Yi Fengru's mouth twitched in disapproval. Seventh sister's heart isn't hard enough after all. That pill just now was the antidote. He chuckled softly. The dagger was already close to Yi Qing Luo's index finger. Seventh sister, second brother will give you one last chance. If you insist on not handing over the profound phoenix ring, second brother will not go easy on you. If she couldn't take off the profound phoenix ring, then she would directly chop off Yi Qing Luo's finger. She could still take the profound phoenix ring away. An icy cold touch was felt from her index finger. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as her lips moved coldly, spitting out 2 words at him. "I, pooey." A mouthful of saliva was directly spat on Yi Fengru's face. Chapter 839. Fengru, stop it. Nangong Firen held onto her arm weakly as she struggled to stand up. However, Yi Fengru seemed as though he couldn't hear anything from the outside world as his gaze turned sharp and his actions didn't hesitate at all. Roar, roar, roar. At the critical moment, a sharp and piercing beast howl broke the silence of the tomb. They saw a black shadow leaping past everyone's eyes. Under the illumination of the luminous pearl, everyone could only see that sharp fangs, glistening with flowing light. Red blood slowly dripped down along the teeth. Sliding down the throat, it was extremely enchanting. A miserable shriek was heard from Yi Fengru's mouth. In everyone's line of sight, a huge leopard with shiny black fur and a body as black as ink appeared. It opened its mouth, and its sharp fangs viciously bit onto Yi Fengru's wrist. That pair of brown beast eyes were opened wide like bronze bells as it was filled with the leopard's fury. It was Shi Ju. The world group's mercenaries heaved a sigh of relief as their suspended hearts slowly sunk. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched helplessly. Her Shi Ju had rushed over to save her. The minute they entered the tomb, she released Shi Ju and went around to check on the surrounding situation. But before Shi Ju returned, the tomb collapsed and they fell into the middle layer of the tomb. She had not expected Shi Ju to follow her scent and find its way over. Wait a minute. Found its way over? From the periphery of the tomb, it directly came to the bottom layer? Which meant that Shi Ju had found the exit to leave the tomb? Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up slightly. Let go, beast. Yi Fengru's miserable shriek was still ringing beside her ears. His wrist, along with that dagger, was bitten by Shi Ju. The dagger broke into pieces as it fell onto the ground. Unfortunately, Yi Fengru's wrist was bleeding continuously as the intense pain stimulated his consciousness. Sometimes it clenched its teeth tightly, cutting his skin and stirring his meridians. Sometimes it loosened its teeth and used that smelly tongue to lick the blood that seeped out. Heaven, the world group, let's discuss this. If this goes on, Yi Fengru's hand will be crippled. Nangong Firen's voice trembled as she used a negotiating tone. Let Yi Fengru go and our Azura group will give you an explanation. Bah! Qiao Jin spat fiercely. Earlier, when that scoundrel Yi Fengru wanted to chop off Qing Luo's finger, why didn't he think that Qing Luo's hand would be crippled? Even if Shi Ju didn't bite off Yi Fengru's hand, the coin dart in my hand wouldn't let him go. These words were echoed by the world group's youngsters. Just based on what Yi Fengru had done to Yi Qing Luo earlier, even if he were to die 100 times, it would not be enough to vent his anger. Shi Ju, kill him. That's right. Eat him alive and swallow him into your stomach. The mercenaries of the world group roared with righteous indignation. Shi Ju's copper bell-sized eyes blinked as it looked at Yi Qing Luo, as though it was asking, "Can I really eat him up?" His brown eyes were filled with innocence. His mouth was biting on his bloody wrist. No matter how one looked at it, it was strange. Yiqing Luo wanted to laugh, but she didn't have the energy to do so. She just moved her eyes lightly, indicating for it to let go of Yi Fengru. Shi Ju obediently bit Yi Fengru's arm and threw it towards Nangong Firen's direction. Following that, it lowered its head and picked up Yiqing Luo's petite body as it leapt back to Long Yunzhan's side. Long Yunzhan swiftly caught Yiqing Luo. Bei Ming Lu squeezed forward and helped to take Yiqing Luo's pulse. Chapter 840. The minute she said that, Bai Ming Lu stopped. The Death God mercenary group had been eyeing Yiqing Luo covetously by the side. She couldn't say anything about Yiqing Luo's current situation. Returning to her brother's side, Yiqing Luo had already relaxed as she shut her eyes weakly and leaned into Long Yunzhan's arms. Qing Luo, why are you still talking about sibling ties at this moment? Just let Shi Ju bite his hand off. Qiao Jin's eyes were filled with anger as he stared at Yi Fengru, who was being supported by Wei Beilai. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as her breathing slowly lengthened. Her slender long fingers lightly scraped the back of Long Yunzhan's hand. Long Yunzhan instantly understood what Yiqing Luo was thinking. His face turned black as his gaze turned chilly as though it was covered with frost. His voice was chilly as though it was wrapped in ice. Death God mercenary group, if you don't want to die, stop the bleeding immediately. Nangong Firen was stunned when he heard that as his pupils grew wide as he turned his head and shouted anxiously, "Quickly stop the bleeding for Yi Fengru. Be careful of the corpse worms." Everyone was instantly enlightened. Why did Shi Ju only bite Yi Fengru's wrist and didn't bite it off or directly tear Yi Fengru into pieces? It was because of this reason. In King Ling's tomb, blood must not be seen. If Yi Fengru's wrist was bitten off, it would definitely spill a lot of blood. If it attracted the corpse worms, under the situation where there was no flame, they would be swallowed by the worms directly, leaving nothing behind. So Shi Ju only cut the skin on Yi Fengru's wrist and kept on licking his blood. Qiao Jin clenched his fists as he clenched the gold coin darts tightly. After we get out, kill Yi Fengru however you want. For now, let's spare his dog life. Long Yunzhan's expression was still indifferent, but his eyes were overflowing with a thick chilly intent, mixed with a murderous aura which was waiting to be unleashed. This is the consequence of messing around. Even if you die here, you deserve it. His cold voice was filled with anger. His pair of clear blue eyes that were as clear as lake water stared coldly at the person in his arms. He was really angry. If he wasn't angry, the usually cold Long Yunzhan would absolutely not say such sarcastic words. Yiqing Luo knew that she was in the wrong and simply didn't have any energy to respond. How is she? Long Yunzhan's cold eyes suddenly looked at Bai Ming Lu. Bei Ming Lu shuddered as she coughed lightly and replied via the mercenary group badge, "Qing Luo, her profound heart jade seems to be gone." Yiqing Luo's pulse was in a mess, to such an extent that she couldn't detect the slightest fluctuation of profound qi. This could only prove that Yiqing Luo had forcefully exhausted the power of her profound heart jade, causing it to overload and directly shatter within her body. This kind of thing was not unheard of. The profound heart jade was gone, which meant that the current Yiqing Luo was an ordinary person who didn't even have the ability to move. In this kind of strange and gloomy tomb, an ordinary person who did not even have the strength to walk was extremely dangerous. Long Yunzhan's eyes grew colder. Yiqing Luo, who was in his arms, couldn't help but shudder. Long Yunzhan's eyes were covered with a layer of extreme coldness, as if it was covered with a thin layer of frost. He slowly squatted down and placed Yiqing Luo by Shi Ju's side, nestling in between Shi Ju's soft fur. His cold voice seemed to be faintly discernible as it fell into everyone's ears. In order to save everyone, in order to let everyone survive, Qing Luo risked her own life, but what did she get in return? his pale thin lips gently pulled into a faintly discernible austere arc, raising his eyes. His azure blue eyes were fixated on Yi Fengru. Long Yunjian slowly walked towards him. What I got in return is your Azura group, burning the bridge after crossing the river, repaying kindness with ingratitude. Chapter 841. That long sword was extremely horrifying. The blade of the sword was faintly discernible with sparkling light patterns that looked like pieces of scales. The icy aura was powerful and majestic. It was as though a ball of cold current was spreading from Long Yunjian's feet. The mercenaries from the Azura group were shocked by this aura as they stared at the long sword in his hand. Their legs were already trembling uncontrollably. All of you deserve to die. Long Yunjian's cold words came out from his thin lip. His long sword danced and swept up sword wave. Profound chi and the cold current intertwined as he slashed down. The entire tomb trembled under this powerful aura. Pieces of gravel fell one after another. The continuous tremors had already overwhelmed the tomb. The sound of gravel falling to the ground and the cracking of the ground overlapped with each other. It was obvious that the tomb was about to collapse again. Leader of the World Group, I'm afraid this is a misunderstanding. Let's talk. Nangong Firen felt a chill down his spine when he met that pair of azure eyes. He felt suffocated. Nangong Firen was fearful of this young man who looked no more than 20 years old but had such an imposing aura. Long Yunjian really wanted to kill them. There was no other emotion in Long Yunjian's eyes. There was only a thick killing intent. Long Yunjian ignored Nangong Firen's words. The sword chi was majestic, and the sword wave that slashed down left countless cracks on the rock wall. Nangong Firen held Nangong Lin in one hand and Yi Fengru in the other as they fled pathetically to avoid Long Yunjian's attack. More than 10 mercenaries from the Azura group turned pale as they were overwhelmed with shock. This powerful aura was definitely not something that an ordinary mystic realm cultivator could release. Long Yunjian's profound rank was at least above Earth profound rank 6, or even higher. Otherwise, a group of Earth profound realm cultivators like them wouldn't be intimidated to this extent. Fengru, why are you so determined to snatch the profound phoenix ring? Zi Qianqian was also frightened by this frigid aura that felt like she was in an icehouse. Her beautiful face was filled with displeasure. From the beginning, Yi Fengru was the one who wanted to snatch the profound phoenix ring. Leading the Azura God Group's 30 elite mercenaries, under the pretense of accepting the outer mission of the Ling King's tomb, in actual fact snatching the profound phoenix ring from Yi Qing Luo's hands. Even though the ring belonged to the Overlord. But after all, this divine relic had already signed a blood contract with Yi Qing Luo. Other than Yi Qing Luo, no one else could remove the profound phoenix ring. Moreover, in this kind of dangerous situation, they needed to rely on Yi Qing Luo to have a chance to leave the Ling King's tomb. Why? At this moment, Yi Fengru had to make a move. Wasn't this forcefully breaking the hearts of the two mercenary groups that had finally prepared to cooperate with each other? It wasn't just Zi Qianqian who didn't understand what Yi Fengru was thinking. Even Nangong Firen, who had been Yi Fengru's classmate for several years, couldn't figure out what Yi Fengru was thinking. I was the one who stole the ring, and I was the one who threatened Seventh Sister. If you want to kill me, come at me alone. Yi Fengru panted heavily. His gloomy eyes stared unblinkingly at Long Yunjian, who was filled with killing intent. He patted Nangong Firen's shoulder, indicating for him to be released. Fengru. Nangong Firen's brows creased slightly as he shouted out Yi Fengru's words. Following that, he deliberated over his words. There are many worms in the Ling King's tomb. If we were to fight here, it would only cause both of us to suffer. In the end, we will be devoured by the worms. Let's talk about everything after we leave the Ling King's tomb. Long Yunjian's long sword, which was covered with scales, kept buzzing as it vibrated gently in his palm. His azure blue eyes were filled with rays of blue light, which contrasted with the blue flowing light of the long sword, which made the coldness and callousness in his eyes even more obvious. Azura God Group's words turned a deaf ear to them. Chapter 842. Yiqing Luo knew that Long Yunjian was angry, and it wasn't a light one. Perhaps it was her overly weak look, which was totally different from her usual arrogant and valiant self, which agitated Long Yunjian. His mind was filled with thoughts of killing those mercenaries from the Azura group. Even the divine dragon sword, which represented the identity of the dragon clan, was taken out. Wouldn't that expose his identity? Moreover, what Nangong Firen said was right. If they were to fight here, blood would definitely be spilled. If the worms were to be attracted and devoured everyone, wouldn't her effort of exhausting her profound Jade Heart's energy and causing the profound Jade Heart to shatter be in vain? No matter what, she must first stop Long Yunjian from going crazy. Yiqing Luo borrowed Shi Ju's strength to slowly straighten her body. Her fingertips moved slightly as she tried to touch the profound phoenix ring. She should be glad that after the profound Jade Heart shattered, the contracted profound phoenix ring could be casually opened without the use of profound energy. Lass, your current body can't take your torment anymore. Old Man Tsang warned her. Yiqing Luo had already taken out a pill to replenish her energy as she pinched it gently as her lips curled. She had to stop Long Yunjian even if she couldn't take it anymore. Long Yunjian's rage was because of her. Only she could stop Long Yunjian. Otherwise, if this carried on, not only would there be the danger of attracting the worms over, Long Yunjian's identity as a human dragon might also be exposed. I won't mess around, don't worry. Yiqing Luo glanced at Shi Ju. Shi Ju understood as it stretched out its huge claws to receive the pill from Yiqing Luo's hand and sent it to her mouth. After taking the pill, Yiqing Luo closed her eyes. Only when the medicine took effect did she feel that her breathing was a little smoother. Her 4 limbs gradually regained their strength. Yiqing Luo moved her arm. Although it was still sore and there was a faint stabbing pain in her heart, but luckily it was still bearable. She stood up and gazed towards Long Yunjian's direction. Old Man Tsang sighed lightly, knowing that he had no way to stop Yiqing Luo's decision. This lass had been putting on a brave front ever since they entered Ling Wang's tomb. And it was because of this Yiqing Luo that made him willingly stay by her side. Yiqing Luo saw Long Yunjian raising his long sword, slashing towards those people from the Azura God group. His movements were swift, and she was just about to head up to call out to Long Yunjian. Suddenly, her eyes flashed and she quickly retreated a few steps, hitting the rock wall. It was just a simple action, but it was already strenuous for her. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she raised her eyes to look at the figure dressed in a bright yellow dragon robe. It floated in the air, its feet not touching the ground. Its red robe fluttered even though there was no wind. And what attracted Yiqing Luo's attention the most was its pair of scarlet red eyes. Humans, so many delicious humans. It curled its lips slightly, raised its hand to cover its chin, and said in a greedy tone. The words that came out of his mouth were like a saw that had not been used for many years, hoarse and ear-piercing. Every word made one's hair stand on end. Yiqing Luo's vision was fixed on its hand. No, that couldn't be called as a hand. It was like the 5 corpses, a white skeleton without root. Just a slight movement and one could hear the creaking sound of the joints twisting. Qing Luo, Vice Group Leader. The World Group's mercenaries couldn't suppress the fear in their hearts as they shouted Yiqing Luo's name with their foreheads covered in sweat. Chapter 843. Corpse King. Yiqing Luo's tone was calm. The person in front of him was dressed in a bright yellow brocade robe. His face was as pale as a corpse's, and his forehead was covered with a thin layer of ice. His pale, bloodless lips parted slightly, revealing his sharp fangs. Scarlet eyes, bizarre fangs, and a cold aura emanating from his body made him look like a zombie. The 5 corpses had already been burnt to ashes. The only thing that remained was the corpse puppet that looked like it wasn't an ordinary corpse puppet. Other than the Corpse King, there shouldn't be anything else. The Corpse King cackled, revealing a cold and treacherous smile. It was you who awakened this king? As expected, it was the Zombie King Guardian. Yiqing Luo's heart sank, but the expression on her face didn't waver at all. Seeing that Yiqing Luo wasn't the least bit afraid, Corpse King squinted his scarlet eyes in interest. Your body has the smell of burning 5 corpses, you've burnt my guards. So what if it's me? Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly. Want to kill me to avenge your guard? The moment he said that, the World Group's mercenaries all held their breath. At the other end of the Azura group, their calves and abdomen were already unbearably soft, and their hearts were greatly shocked. This was the Zombie King Guardian, the Corpse King that guarded the Tomb King. They were not on the same level as the 5 corpse puppets just now. Yiqing Luo was too insolent. He clearly didn't even have the strength to stand firmly, yet he still used such an arrogant tone to speak to the Corpse King. If they angered the Corpse King, what would they do if they were implicated? Yiqing Luo seemed as though she hadn't noticed those people's gazes as her charming eyes swirled with a sliver of dark glint. If it wasn't for me, you might not be able to wake up even if you slept for thousands of years. I'm the one who woke you up, so you should be more grateful to me. The members of the Killing God group were so nervous that their hearts almost jumped out of their mouths. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Was there something wrong with the vice leader of this world group? Provoking the Zombie King like this, was he trying to enrage the Zombie King, causing the Zombie King to fly into a rage and directly destroy all of them? Ha 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 ha! Hoarse laughter burst into the ears. Everyone was so shocked that their hearts started to tremble along with the frequency of the laughter. Interesting little girl. The Corpse King laughed. As he was laughing, his figure suddenly flashed and a gloomy cold breath whizzed towards Yiqing Luo's face. In a blink of an eye, King Corpse's pale face appeared right in front of Yiqing Luo. His speed was extremely fast, and the chilly wind that was stirred up caused everyone to shiver involuntarily. Yiqing Luo stared at the Corpse King, which was just inches away from her. That pair of scarlet eyes was filled with a faintly discernible ridicule. The chilly air blew on her cheek. Yiqing Luo shuddered as goosebumps rose all over her body. The corpse puppet couldn't breathe, but the cold air coming from its body was unbearable to ordinary people. Yiqing Luo only trembled and very quickly concealed the flustered look in her eyes as she raised her head calmly. Could it be that Corpse King feels that I've said something wrong? Yes, you're absolutely right. The Corpse King nodded, his lips curling up. It's just that, before awakening this king, did you ask this king whether or not I was willing to awaken? It was a corpse puppet which was in deep sleep. Even if she asked, it wouldn't reply. The Corpse King's body leaned forward even more. That pale face was like a human's skin as it stuck directly to Yiqing Luo. Chapter 844. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as her peripheral vision glanced towards a certain direction as she pursed her pink lips tightly. I can burn your guards, I can also burn you. Ha! Ha ha! Corpse King slowly shifted his body as his scarlet eyes looked as though he was looking at a fool. Just based on you, a waste without any profound energy, you can burn me? That ghastly white bone was raised up high as a bone joint stretched out and pointed directly at Yiqing Luo's heart. Through her clothes, Yiqing Luo could feel a gust of cold air as it instantly enveloped her. She lowered her eyes as her long eyelashes fluttered slightly as she gazed at that piece of white bone at her heart. It seemed as though the next second, that white bone would turn into a sharp blade as it directly pierced into her heart. Corpse King had long seen that her body was in poor condition. Thinking about it, her breathing was messy, and even though her 4 limbs had been replenished with essence chi pills, it was not as powerful as before. Not to mention the powerful Corpse King. Even an ordinary person would be able to see her current condition. No profound energy? Zi Qianshan murmured these few words as her beautiful eyes suddenly lifted up and congealed towards Yi Qing Luo. Your profound energy. Right. They couldn't sense any presence of profound qi from Yi Qing Luo's body. No wonder after burning the 5 corpses, Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she had no energy to move at all. Even Yi Fengru was unable to resist. Initially they only thought that Yi Qing Luo had exhausted quite a bit of profound qi and temporarily had no energy. Yi Qing Luo, who had always been the backbone, had lost her profound qi, which was equivalent to, they were going to die in King Ling's tomb? The 10 over death god mercenaries instantly turned pale as they looked at each other in dismay. From the other party's eyes, they could see the other party's fear and terror. Following that, almost at the same time, the few mercenaries tacitly made the same action. They took the opportunity when Corpse King's attention was attracted by Yi Qing Luo to quietly get up and speedily sprinted towards the exit of the middle layer of the tomb. Just as they passed by the extremely fast huge stone, suddenly a ball of remnant shadow directly flashed past their eyes. They heard a hoarse cold voice, as though a devil from hell had come to claim their lives. Under this king's eyes, you still want to escape? Those mercenaries had no time to react at all. He only felt a bone-piercing coldness, and before he could even scream, he suddenly disappeared in front of everyone. A few Azura group uniforms fell to the ground. As if they were touched by the 5 corpses, they were instantly killed, not even their bones were left. The other mercenaries who also wanted to escape immediately knelt on the ground. Yi Qing Luo looked at the Corpse King, which disappeared in the blink of an eye and appeared several steps away, as she secretly gave a bitter smile. After losing the profound heart jade, she was indeed a cripple. He couldn't even see through the Zombie King's movements. This bitter smile froze at the corner of his mouth when he saw the Corpse King slowly turn around. The Undead King raised its 2 skeletal arms without any concealment, and the eerie white bones were being covered with a layer of human skin at a speed visible to the naked eye, gradually forming a hand with skin and flesh. Her skin was fair, slender, and glowed with a sparkling luster. Everyone's expression changed drastically. This Corpse King could also fuse with humans, turning the human body into nutrients for his own body. Following this, the Corpse King seemed to be extremely satisfied with his own pair of hands as he looked back and forth for a long time, as the red glow beneath his eyes flashed, as though blood was flowing. Everyone felt a chill down their spines. The Corpse King still didn't intend to give up? Did he want to treat all of them as food? While the Death God mercenary group was on tenterhooks, they saw the Corpse King's gaze, firmly falling onto Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 845. Saying that, Corpse King's figure swayed as it speedily closed in on Yi Qing Luo. A pair of squinted scarlet eyes were filled with evil and maniacal malevolent laughter. Its 5 fingers opened wide as it directly locked onto Yi Qing Luo's neck. Get lost! A deep roar was heard, and immediately following that was a sword wave which was suffused with blue light, wave after wave. Corpse King's reaction was swift as it turned around and raised both its arms as its sleeves fluttered, setting off a strong cold current which covered the sword wave which was coming towards it. 2 gushes of energy collided. In a split second, the entire tomb started to crack. Following that, they saw Long Yunzhan holding his long sword as he speedily leapt to Yi Qing Luo's side, pulling her into his embrace with one hand. With a leap, he speedily retreated to Shi Ju's side. The World Group's mercenaries regained their senses as they flew up and leapt in front of Corpse King as they cooperated with one another to block Corpse King's attack. Be careful! You're not its match. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled when she saw that as she raised her voice and howled loudly. After that howl, she leaned against the rock wall weakly as she laid limply. Long Yunzhan caught hold of her just in time. Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and grabbed Long Yunzhan's lapel as her slender brows creased tightly as her charming eyes were filled with panic. They're not the Corpse King's match, the minute they merge with it. Qing Luo, have a good rest. Qiao Jin's roguish voice was heard. He tossed the gold coin darts as his fingertips speedily shot out several gold coin darts towards Corpse King's face. When those gold coin darts flew past Corpse King's face, it was avoided by Corpse King acutely. Following that, a continuous barrage of gold coin darts flew over. At the same time, Li Mao's agile kitten-like body climbed up the surrounding rock walls as she speedily neared Corpse King's direction. While running, she didn't forget to reveal a crafty smile towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. "Sister, you've always been protecting us. Now, it's our turn to protect you." As she neared Corpse King, Li Mao's slender hand suddenly transformed into a huge black cat claw as it struck Corpse King's back with a palm strike. Corpse King's eyes were filled with anger as its scarlet eyes flashed with a devilish glint. It gave out a hoarse sneer. "All of you are here to die, this king shall fulfill your wishes." Boom! Kitty Lee's claw landed on thin air. 5 deep claw marks appeared on the ground. The Corpse King's eyes flickered, and he turned around to grab Kitty Lee behind him. "Kitty!" The other mercenaries immediately rushed forward. Yes. All along, it had been Yi Qing Luo who had risked her life to protect them. In order to protect everyone, he didn't even hesitate to destroy his profound heart jade. Now, it was up to them to fight in order to protect Yi Qing Luo. A strong murderous aura shot out from the mercenaries' eyes, and their xian qi broke out of their bodies. In an instant, the entire tomb was stirred up by raging waves of profound qi. The tomb was already unable to bear the weight. Huge rocks kept falling down, and the tomb was on the verge of collapse. The mercenaries of the Azura group could not stand steadily. They supported each other and wanted to take the opportunity to leave. Nangong Firen's expression was cold as he commanded in a dignified manner, "Brothers of the God-slaying team, charge." The commander's orders must be obeyed. Even if he was afraid and uneasy, even if he wanted to run away. However, before their commander ordered them to retreat, they would fight until the very last moment. This was the mercenaries' spirit. But as the God-slaying team's previous actions had angered the Corpse King, they were forcefully merged into one body. Including Nangong Firen and the others, there were only 7 of them left. After they joined the battle, they didn't have much use. There were a total of 100 over people, but under the circumstance of ganging up on the Corpse King, they didn't gain any advantage at all. Chapter 846. Long Yunzhan's eyelids drooped as he calmly looked at Yi Qing Luo, who was leaning on Shiju's back, and his vision fell onto Shiju. After looking for some time, he held his long sword and charged towards the Corpse King. The long sword sparkled with a faint blue sword glow, and those layers of scales were like water ripples, sparkling under the clear and crystalline light. A strong wave rose, directly attacking towards the Corpse King. Murderous aura filled the sky, filling the entire tomb. In the Corpse King's eyes, these 100 over people were merely its food. The food's resistance was merely an appetizer. Dense murderous aura? The Corpse King's scarlet eyes were filled with interest as its hoarse voice roared. "How dare you!" Its brocade robe swelled up even more and its body instantly released a gush of strong cold current, directly sweeping towards its back. Long Yunzhan's expression didn't change as his figure leapt down from the rock wall, raising his long sword and waving it once again, striking towards the Corpse King. "Human, your taste and theirs are different." The Corpse King licked its pale lips, its bloodless face faintly revealing a few white bones. "If I were to integrate you into my body, it would definitely be a very good nutrient." The more it said, the more the greedy glint in its scarlet eyes became brighter and brighter. It once again released its cold air, freezing the entire tomb's cold current, wantonly flying about. And the long sword in this human's hand. This sword, it had already noticed it earlier. There was a burst of magical power which enticed it to completely absorb the energy on the sword. Human, it wanted. The sword, it also wanted. The Corpse King exerted some more strength, and the strong cold current instantly covered the surrounding rock walls with frost. That slippery vines and moss had already frozen into frost. Long Yunjian was expressionless as he waved his sword and directly slashed the frost, forcefully pressing it down. The tomb shook once again, and a thunderous loud sound was heard. The frost which was sealed in front of the corpse king's face completely cracked. That long sword had already directly pressed against the corpse king's face, just a few fingers' distance away. The corpse king's expression was icy cold as it suddenly stretched out its slender fingers, clamping onto the long sword in front of it. The faint blue light flashed slightly, like a current, as it wrapped around the corpse king's fingers. The corpse king frowned. The electric current seemed to want to injure the palm it had just formed. With a sizzling sound, the electric current became even more intense. The zombie king did not panic. He held the hilt of his sword with one hand and allowed the electric current to engulf his palm. He waved his hand slightly. It seemed like a casual wave of his hand. Long Yunjian's tall body was flung away. He flipped a few times in the air and landed 5 or 6 meters away. Long Yunjian only managed to steady himself after a long while. A mouthful of fresh blood was stuck in his throat and he nearly spat it out. He used his sword to support his own strength and forced himself to stand up. "Leader! Zhan!" The few of them exclaimed and looked at Long Yunjian worriedly. Qiao Jin thought about it, but was stopped by Long Yunjian. "Zhan!" Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she felt a stifling feeling in her chest, making it hard for her to breathe. She had been learning by the ghost doctor's side for such a long time. She was also a medicine refiner, so she knew a few things about medicine. She naturally saw through Long Yunjian's current state. He was wounded by the corpse king. And the injury wasn't light. If this carried on, the group of them would become the corpse king's food sooner or later. No one would be able to escape. Long Yunjian looked at the corpse king expressionlessly, as his breathing became heavier and heavier, as though he had sensed Yiqing Luo's calling. He raised his eyes and his azure blue pupils met directly with Yiqing Luo's eyes, which were filled with worry. The corners of his mouth curled up, and a faint smile appeared on his usually cold face, as if he was comforting her. Saying 3 words. Chapter 847. Yiqing Luo's heart seemed to have been struck by something fiercely. She opened her mouth, trying to call Long Yunjian back. Shiju knew the exit to leave the tomb. As long as Long Yunjian brought his brothers and left with Shiju, perhaps they might be able to survive. But just as she was about to open her mouth, Long Yunjian had already shifted his gaze and charged towards the corpse king once again. At the same time, Yiqing Luo felt that scorching feeling in her heart, gushing up again. She instantly lost all her energy. Her entire body went limp as she collapsed. Roar, roar! Shiju worriedly rubbed its head over as it bit Yiqing Luo's collar. Yiqing Luo clutched her heart as her face turned extremely pale. Her eyes seemed like a heavy stone, pressuring her till she had no strength to open them. There seemed to be something in her heart, constantly tearing her heart apart, ripping open her heart and filling it with countless raging flames. This feeling, the moment her profound jade heart shattered, she also felt it. It was as if a ball of raging flames wanted to incinerate her entirely. In the haze, Yiqing Luo seemed to have heard a hurried cry of alarm, as well as Shiju's warning howl. There was a dangerous aura. It was gradually nearing, although she had lost her profound jade heart. But her powerful perceptive abilities still existed. Yiqing Luo's heart pounded wildly as she wanted to open her eyes. But at the next moment, a wave of intense scorching heat wave enveloped her heart instantly. The scorching, uncomfortable feeling made Yiqing Luo's body couldn't help but curl up. She could even clearly feel that her collar had been picked up by Shiju, flipped in midair and landed on Shiju's back. The intense cold wind blew against her cheek, but it was still unable to extinguish the raging fire in her heart. "Lass!" In the haze, she heard Old Man Tsang's voice, calling out to her consciousness continuously. Yiqing Luo responded softly. "This is your chance." Old Man Tsang's voice sounded extremely hazy and fuzzy. Yiqing Luo listened for some time, but only heard a few fragmented words from him. Yiqing Luo forcefully held on to her consciousness, as she organized Old Man Tsang's words. Lass, don't want to be your companion's burden, don't want your companion to sacrifice to protect you, right? Girl, if you don't wake up, your companions will die at the hands of the Zombie King. None of them will be spared. This old man can only save you. After the last sentence was organized, Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly twitched fiercely. His entire body tensed up and his breathing became rapid. No. If the World Group's brothers were all dead, how could she live alone? She was the one who brought the brothers into the tomb of the Ling King. She was the one who brought everyone into danger. If everyone else had died and she was the only one who had survived, what was this? If you don't want to live alone, then work hard to open your eyes. He wanted to open his eyes, but they were as heavy as lead weights. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't open them. The more it was like this, the more intense the burning sensation in his heart became. What kind of pain was this? No, it didn't hurt. The flames that were burning his heart didn't cause him any pain. All that was left was the heat that burned his heart. Feel your profound heart, Jade. Call out to your profound heart, Jade. You can definitely do it. This is a chance. The voice became more and more indistinct. By the time Yiqing Luo listened carefully, there was no longer any sound. Profound Jade Heart? Hadn't her profound Jade Heart already shattered? And she could still call out to her profound Jade Heart? Who cares? Old Man Tsang wouldn't lie to her. Chapter 848. Profound Jade Heart. She needed the profound heart Jade. He needed a powerful profound Jade Heart. She wanted the World Group brothers to survive together with her. This belief was shouted from the bottom of his heart over and over again. His heart, to be more precise. An extremely intense wave of heat suddenly surged from his heart, where the profound Jade Heart was being nurtured. That wave of heat rushed into her limbs and bones. It was as if he wanted to sweep through every meridian in her body. Yiqing Luo seemed to have sensed a gush of powerful energy surging towards her body continuously. She clenched her fists tightly, and the burning pain on her face gradually faded. Right at this time, Shiju's rapidly advancing body paused. Yiqing Luo felt her body being flung out. Soon after, there was the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. This fling nearly flung the heat wave out of his body as well. Shijua. Even if Yiqing Luo didn't open her eyes, she could roughly guess. The Zombie King had set its target on her. In other words, ever since the 5 corpses died and the Zombie King was resurrected, the Zombie King's target had always been her. Although Shiju was a low-level mirage beast, it was still a cub after all. Its speed was naturally not as fast as the Corpse King. However, after fleeing for a while, it was slapped away by the Zombie King on the spot. It was fine, as long as Shiju wasn't fused with the King Corpse, there was still time. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Qing Luo. A few hurried voices were approaching. Long Yunzhan and Qiao Jin rushed in front of her. In the face of the Zombie King's wave after wave of attacks, they were completely fearless. One by one, they constantly consumed their Xian Qi and brandished the weapons in their hands, wanting to leave at least a small wound on the Zombie King's body. No matter what, they had to protect Yiqing Luo, who had always been protecting them. The Corpse King's pale lips sneered, not taking this group of food seriously at all. His sleeves fluttered, and an earth-shattering cold current surged. Numerous cold currents directly pressed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Block it! Protect the vice leader! The mercenaries roared again and again in a deafening voice filled with conviction. These young mercenaries' profound chi rose steadily as all of them stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Bang, 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 with a few collisions, groups of mercenaries were overturned. They crashed into the surrounding rock walls. It caused the entire tomb to shake, and it was on the verge of collapsing. The Corpse King's scarlet eyes coldly swept over the food, his hoarse voice sharp and ear-piercing. Come! This king will absorb all of you into his body. Those 100 mercenaries who were sent flying onto the ground weren't intimidated by the corpse king at all, as they immediately stood up and pounced forward, trying to help Yi Qing Luo to block it. Get out of the way. Her cold voice was somewhat enchanting. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. This voice, it was Yi Qing Luo. The mercenaries' gazes immediately congealed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. The petite body that had been flipped over by the zombie king's cold current was now floating steadily in the air. A bewitching red light enveloped her whole body. Qing Luo. Xiao Jin clutched his chest and suppressed the urge to spit out blood. He raised his head and stared at the woman who had almost crashed into the top of the cliff. Long Yunzhan pressed his sword against the ground and breathed heavily. He placed a hand on Xiao Jin's shoulder and said, "Don't go over. She doesn't have a profound jade heart, how can she still float in the air? What's going on with this red glow? Without a profound jade heart, can she even display her profound chi?" The Death God mercenary group's mercenaries opened their mouths in shock. They stared dumbfoundedly at that lady who had her eyes tightly shut and her jet black hair fluttering in the wind. Chapter 849. Forehead? The mercenary's vision instantly congealed towards Yi Qing Luo's forehead. Under the red light, a few patterns faintly appeared on the lady's forehead. Like a pattern outlined by the red flowing light. Flickering, it became more and more eye-catching. Following that, under the flickering light, the pattern on the lady's forehead was completely revealed in front of everyone's eyes. That was a dark pink pattern, with a few petals lingering on the center of her forehead, like a blooming cherry blossom. Right. It was cherry blossom. Her forehead didn't have any decals at all. This must have grown out suddenly? What's going on? Don't tell me she's a demon? Otherwise, without a profound heart jade, how could she possibly float in mid-air? The Azura group's mercenaries had already started to panic, as they looked at the lady in mid-air in terror. That cherry blossom, under the red light, became more and more obvious. Long Yunzhan and the others were stunned. After being together with Yi Qing Luo for such a long time, they had never seen such a pattern on her forehead. Apparently, these patterns had a great relationship with that bewitching red glow on her body. Only Yi Fengyu, after seeing that pattern, his face instantly turned pale, as his eyes faintly flashed with astonishment and disbelief. How could it be? How could it be his sister? Corpse King squinted his scarlet eyes, as he gazed at the pattern on Yi Qing Luo's forehead for some time, as he sneered, "Little lass, don't tell me that you think you can play this little trick and deceive this king? Obediently become a part of this king's body." Saying that, Corpse King's slender fingers turned into ghastly white bones, like a sharp hook, as it pressed towards Yi Qing Luo. Just at this moment, the red glow on Yi Qing Luo's body exploded. That cherry blossom pattern on her forehead was like an excited flame. Yi Qing Luo's curly long eyelashes moved, as her tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. Boom! A loud sound was heard, as Corpse King's attacking body fell heavily onto the ground. The sound of bones breaking was ear-piercing, like a saw. Pale face, wide-open scarlet eyes, tightly stuck to the ground, as those pieces of gravel scratched his skin. No blood flowed out. Just a torn wound, revealing the ghastly white bones. This scene made the surrounding mercenaries dumbfounded. What happened? They hadn't even seen Yi Qing Luo make a move, and the Corpse King had mysteriously fallen onto the ground? The Corpse King on the ground let out a furious roar. He slammed the ground and was about to stand up. A powerful aura instantly broke through the dense cold air in the tomb. A powerful pressure replaced it. The King of Corpses lying on the ground was suppressed to the point that it could not resist at all. "If you want my woman to become a part of your body, you'll have to see if I agree to it first." An extremely dignified voice, mellow like fine wine, lingered in everyone's ears. As the clouds parted, a man in a luxurious purple robe appeared, as if he was riding on an auspicious cloud. His black hair fluttered gracefully on his shoulders like a cloud of smoke. It made his peerless face look even more exquisite and devilish. Especially that pair of peach blossom eyes that were long and narrow like obsidian, they overflowed with a cold light as they moved about, causing one's entire body to tremble with just a glance. He is, it can't be, why is he here? I'm not dreaming, am I? What did he say earlier? Death God mercenaries drew in a breath of cold air, as they stared at that purple-robed man in disbelief. Whereas the World Group's mercenaries all heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he was here, all the problems would no longer be a problem. Chapter 850. His purple robe fluttered and in an instant, the man had already stepped to Yi Qing Luo's side. Stretching out his arm, he stably brought the young lady's petite body into his embrace. Xian! Yi Qing Luo was in a daze as she felt a familiar warmth and that calming sandalwood fragrance slowly lingering around her nose. She couldn't help but took a deep breath as she buried her head in his embrace and shut her eyes. His heart, which was hanging in the air, finally calmed down. In her mind, she recalled that scene earlier. It was at that moment just now. The instant the king corpse attacked, Yi Qing Luo felt her own profound jade heart's heart was like a raging inferno, surging and rushing over explosively. She could even feel a gush of powerful energy filling her limbs and bones. Just as she opened her eyes and was about to counterattack the corpse king, Dmo Xian was like a god as he descended from the sky. It was also at that instant that her entire body's energy seemed to be stripped away as she fell from the sky. Right now, she had no way to think about where that power came from. She could only wait till they left the tomb before asking Old Man Song. Sorry, I'm late. Dmo Xian gently caressed her pale face as his eyes were filled with tenderness. He held her slender waist tightly as the both of them slowly landed on the ground. Dmo Xian stabilized her body. His 5 fingers slowly covered Yi Qing Luo's chest. A ball of profound qi was injected into her heart. I'm not by your side and you kept making me worried. Dmo Xian was helping her to reconstruct her profound jade heart while grumbling at her. It wasn't hard to hear the heavy pampering and tenderness in his words. Luckily, he came in time. From afar, he sensed the lifting of the seal. Dmo Xian rushed over and outside the tomb. He sensed Yi Qing Luo's presence. He knew that the lifting of the seal this time had something to do with Yi Qing Luo. Dmo Xian was naturally very clear about the dangers of Ling Qing's tomb. Based on Yi Qing Luo and the rest's ability, it was not enough to leave the tomb alive. Especially when Yi Qing Luo's profound jade heart was formed by him. The moment it shattered, he sensed it. Immediately, he panicked and rushed into the tomb without caring about anything else. Finally, he made it in time. Yi Qing Luo leaned lazily in his arms as her eyes were half closed. After her body was filled with profound qi, she had finally regained some strength. My profound jade heart had some strange movements. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips and rubbed herself against Dmo Xian's embrace. I thought something had happened to you. Dmo Xian's hand, which was wrapped around her waist, pinched her waist harshly as he rebuked in anger. Who's the one who's in trouble now? Who are you worried about? Yi Qing Luo knew that she was in the wrong as she replied in a soft voice. It's my fault. Luckily the Overlord rushed over in time and saved my life. I'm extremely grateful, only. Devote yourself to me. Dmo Xian raised his brows. His long and narrow eyes outlined an arc. Yi Qing Luo's cheeks flushed red, thinking that other than flirting with her, this man could only flirt with her. As soon as they met, he took liberties with her. One had to know that the current location, background, and atmosphere were not suitable for flirting. The Death God mercenaries were completely dazed. This man dressed in purple robe, although they had never seen him before, but they had absolutely heard of his reputation. Purple robe, ring. A face of peerless elegance. Sparkling peach blossom eyes. All of them. Overlord, the legendary master of the Imperial Palace. the world-famous Di Zun. He and the World Group's vice-group leader were actually in such a relationship? No matter who it was, they could tell that when Dmo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo, his expression was so gentle and pampering. Chapter 851. HHHHH. HHHHH. The king corpse let out a sharp low roar as its hand on the ground gradually turned into white bones. Its scarlet eyes widened as its white bones curled up as it pounded the ground heavily. What are you? How dare you treat this king like this? This king will devour you. The atmosphere was instantly destroyed. Dmo Xian shot a cold glance over as he ridiculed with his rosy thin lips. Based on you? You dare to devour this lord? He scoffed disdainfully as he gazed at the person in his arms. Looking at her pale face, under the formation of the profound jade heart, it gradually regained its color as his expression turned gentle. The king corpse's body instantly froze on the spot. Just one look and it made a dignified king corpse so terrified that it was unable to move. This seemingly young and handsome man actually possessed such powerful strength. There weren't many people who could defeat it 1,000 years ago, not to mention 1,000 years later. The king corpse was terrified and wanted to escape, but its body seemed to be bound by an invisible force. It had no chance to move at all. Hurt my little Luo, causing her profound jade heart to shatter. Little brat, you still want to escape? Dmo Xian chuckled softly as the corners of his eyes curved into a narrow arc. Little brat? The death god mercenaries' expressions changed as they stared aghast at the king corpse lying on the ground. The world mercenaries' mouths twitched as they stared sympathetically at the king corpse lying on the ground. In Dmo Xian's eyes, the 1,000-year king corpse was just a little brat. In the entire world, probably only Dmo Xian dared to say that. Sure enough, the king corpse's deathly pale face was immediately filled with sullen anger. Its scarlet eyes were like a poisonous snake, filled with humiliation and anger. It formed a sharp contrast with the high spirits just now. Dmo Xian retracted his gaze as he didn't continue to care about the struggling and roaring king corpse. He calmly continued to form the profound jade heart for Yiqing Luo. Time passed by in a blink of an eye. The two mercenaries held their breaths as they waited in rapt attention. Group leader, are you all right? Suddenly, in the crowd, Long Yunzhan's body, which was supporting his sword, swayed slightly and straightened up. Long Yunzhan slowly shook his head, one arm supporting himself against the rock wall, his long eyelashes covering his azure blue eyes. Qiao Jin frowned slightly, feeling that he was a little strange. Just as he was about to call Baiming Lu to check Long Yunzhan's pulse, he suddenly sensed a powerful profound energy covering the tomb. Everyone's line of sight immediately shifted to the direction where the profound qi had come from. It was Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo. Dmo Xian's palm that was covering Yiqing Luo's chest flashed a ball of soft fluorescent light and disappeared in a flash. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes and clearly sensed a palm-sized jade-shaped qi overflowing from her heart, wrapping around her heart and automatically repairing the injuries caused by the profound jade heart's shattering. Strong profound qi spread throughout Yiqing Luo's limbs and bones at an extremely fast speed. Power! He was finally back. Yiqing Luo clenched her fist, feeling the profound qi rushing into her body as a sweet smile appeared on her lips. She raised her eyes and looked at Dmo Xian with a warm smile, just as she was about to express her thanks. But she heard Dmo Xian staring at his own hand for a long time as he sighed softly and immediately threw out a sentence, "It's still a little too small." Yiqing Luo was momentarily dazed as she blinked her eyes, not understanding the meaning behind his words. But seeing Dmo Xian waving his hand which had helped her form the profound jade heart earlier, he clicked his tongue as his eyes were filled with a teasing smile. Yiqing Luo's face flushed red with a whoosh. "Damn it! Stinky hooligan! You shouldn't flirt like this when picking up a girl." She lowered her eyes as she stared at her chest. Chapter 852. Dmo Xian narrowed his long peach blossom eyes as he gazed deeply at her protruding chest. After some time, he shook his head helplessly. Although he didn't say a word, but everything was expressed in silence. Damn it! Was he despising her flat chest? So what if she was flat chest? At least she had saved the country's fabric. The thoughts turned from embarrassment into anger as it surged in her mind. By the time she regained her senses, Yiqing Luo suddenly spat out. Save what fabric? In the modern world, she was at least a 36B. Looking at Yiqing Luo's flustered and exasperated look, Dmo Xian couldn't help but burst out laughing. This smile was peerless. Even the surrounding cold air seemed to be covered by this extremely pampering smile, which was like a spring breeze. Everything in the surroundings had lost its color. Zi Qianqian's beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief. She couldn't believe that the legendary cold and emotionless, bloodthirsty Overlord would be so handsome. That peerless looks, even she couldn't help but develop feelings of adoration. Based on what? Based on what? Everything belonged to Yiqing Luo? Especially when she saw the Overlord looking at Yiqing Luo, that pampering and gentle gaze. Looking at the Overlord's slender fingers brushing past Yiqing Luo's face. His actions were gentle, as though he was holding the most precious treasure in his hands. That jealous feeling in his heart couldn't be concealed as it surged up. Based on what Yiqing Luo's appearance, she became the main character? Everyone in the Azura group's sight was attracted by Yiqing Luo. Even the incomparably noble Overlord treated Yiqing Luo with such gentleness. She was obviously the high and mighty fairy Qianqian, the #1 beauty who was praised by the men. Whereas on the other side, the world group's mercenaries were already used to this helplessness. Showing off dog food depends on the occasion. The Overlord is here. Shouldn't we hurry and leave this godforsaken place? After we get out of here, we will disappear on our own accord, so that you can have a good time. This was Dmo Xian's power. His appearance made these mercenaries, who were originally on tenterhooks and extremely nervous, completely put their hearts at ease. One by one, they started to tease him. From his tone, it was obvious that he was very familiar with the Overlord. Nangong Firen was the most severely injured. Supported by Nangong Lin, she was barely able to stand. She stared unblinkingly at the golden couple embracing each other warmly. Something seemed to be tearing her heart apart. Dmo Xian. Dizun. He had never expected that the World Mercenary Group and the Overlord would actually have such a relationship. Of course, Nangong Firen wouldn't take Yiqing Luo's effort for granted just because of her relationship with Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo's ability and personality made him extremely impressed. This mysterious woman, in this world, only the miraculous Dmo Xian was worthy of her. Nangong Firen smiled bitterly and looked away. Nangong Lin frowned when she saw the expression on Nangong Firen's face. Nangong Lin could more or less guess the thoughts of her brother, who had always doted on her. His vision shifted from his brother to Yiqing Luo. A sinister and vicious intent flashed across his eyes. Just as the atmosphere was relaxing, that king corpse which was pressed onto the ground and unable to move, used all its energy to struggle. The human palm which had just been formed had gradually melted and turned into ghastly white bones. If it continued to be suppressed by this energy, its body would definitely turn into a pile of ghastly white bones. No. It would absolutely not allow its human body to turn into ugly white bones. Chapter 853. Not knowing why, King Corpse suddenly felt a burst of strong energy forcefully surging into its body. That feeling of being restrained by Dmo Xian instantly became lighter. King Corpse's scarlet eyes flashed as it didn't bother about the source of this energy, as it immediately turned around and speedily ran towards the direction of King Ling's main tomb. Before it left, it didn't forget to shout angrily, "This king will absolutely not let you off." King Corpse's speed was extremely fast, and in just a blink of an eye, it had already passed through the 5 corpse coffins. Dmo Xian's expression changed slightly as his brows rose slightly. It actually still has the energy to retaliate. King Corpse's ability was definitely not comparable to Dmo Xian's. Moreover, King Corpse was arrogant. If it really had the energy to struggle free from Dmo Xian, then it definitely wouldn't be pressed onto the ground forcefully, eating a mouthful of dust. How did King Corpse suddenly have the energy to struggle free from Dmo Xian's restraints? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly, as she didn't have the mood to flirt with Dmo Xian anymore, as she immediately grabbed his wrist and chased after King Corpse. If King Corpse still had the chance to resist, these people would be in hidden danger. Under Dmo Xian's intentional suppression, King Corpse's ability to maintain its human body had already disappeared. It would definitely fuse with more food to replenish its body's nutrient. Just as the two of them turned around and speedily chased up, suddenly they heard overlapping cries of astonishment behind them. Qing Luo, be careful. Group leader? What are you doing? The few of them shouted in panic in unison. Yiqing Luo sensed something amiss, and at the same time as Dmo Xian, she speedily retreated as she raised her hand to counterattack. But she saw. The one who was stabbing towards her heart was dressed in black, his black hair combed neatly, azure blue eyes without any emotions. Long Yun Zhan. Yiqing Luo was astonished as she didn't manage to react in time. She only saw that faint blue glow, aiming right at her, stabbing speedily. Long Yun Zhan? Why was it him? Because of their trust towards Long Yun Zhan, Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, who had extremely strong perceptive senses, didn't discover the abnormality behind them. When they saw that the other party was Long Yun Zhan, the both of them were stunned. However, it was this momentary daze that caused the two of them to react. They wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Qing Luo. Sister. Just as the long sword was about to pierce into Yiqing Luo's heart, two figures had already sped over. Only the sound of a sword piercing into flesh could be heard, and a petite figure limply hung down. Xiao Yi. It was Yan Xiao Yi. The moment they realized that Long Yun Zhan had launched an attack towards Yiqing Luo, Yan Xiao Yi and Kitty Li almost leapt up at the same time, blocking in front of Yiqing Luo. At the last moment, Yan Xiao Yi pushed Kitty Li away. He forcefully took the blow. Yiqing Luo's heart twitched fiercely as her eyes widened, looking at that petite figure blocking in front of her. Long Yunzhan's expression did not change. Seeing that he had stabbed the wrong person, he did not hesitate to pull out his sword. Blood splattered on the ground. Yiqing Luo's entire body was trembling, as she was only in time to hug the fallen Yan Xiao Yi. You're fine. Yan Xiao Yi pinched herself in pain. Her pretty face was pale without any color of blood. That pair of eyes, which were usually lively, seemed dull and lifeless. Kitty Li, who was pushed away, stabilized her footsteps as she turned her head to see Yan Xiao Yi weakly closing her eyes. As she stared at Long Yunzhan, her eyes were filled with rage. Joining Devil Class, joining the World Group, was all because of Yiqing Luo. Towards this Long Yunzhan, she didn't have any deep feelings. Not comparable to Yiqing Luo, not comparable to Yan Xiao Yi and the others' feelings towards Long Yunzhan. Chapter 854. However, Long Yunzhan acted as if he didn't hear anything. He held onto the blue sword that was dripping with blood as his body swayed slightly. His expressionless face was still devoid of emotion. Even when he saw Kitty Li's claws grabbing at him, he still stood there indifferently. His azure blue eyes did not even blink once. Instead, she slightly raised her neck and stared straight at Kitty Li. Yiqing Luo carried Yan Xiao Yi as her brows creased as she looked at Long Yunzhan. She couldn't believe that Long Yunzhan would attack them. Raising his head, he saw Long Yunzhan raising his head like he was waiting for death. Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she vaguely sensed something strange. Kitty, stop. The black cat claw that was about to land on Long Yunzhan's body stopped. The strength of the cat's paw was extremely great. After it was intercepted, It set off a huge gust of wind that blew Long Yunjan's hair. His azure blue eyes were still without the slightest ripple. He was as cold and indifferent as ever. But no matter how Yiqing Luo looked at it, she felt that something was amiss. "Sister, why did you stop me?" Kitty Lee clenched her cat claw tightly and retracted her hand. The black cat claw had already transformed back into a slender human wrist. She pointed at Long Yunjan and said angrily, "This person betrayed us. Let me kill him to avenge Sister Xiao Yi." "If I kill him, will Xiao Yi wake up?" Yiqing Luo pursed her lips tightly. Seeing that she managed to persuade Kitty Lee, she lowered her eyes and looked at the pale Yan Xiao Yi in her arms. Yan Xiao Yi's eyes were closed and she was in a coma. Her voice was a little hoarse and choked. "The longsword is poisoned. Xiao Yi is poisoned." The moment he said this, the mercenaries' faces turned ashen as they stared at Long Yunjan in astonishment. At this moment, no one could believe it. His guild leader had actually attacked his own people, and he even used such a vicious method. The sword was poisoned. Just by looking at Yiqing Luo's expression, she knew that this kind of poison was something that even she could not cure. Even Yiqing Luo was unable to detoxify this poison, so it was obvious how dangerous this poison was. Yes, the sword was poisoned. Moreover, she had to return to the academy to seek help from the ghost doctor for this poison. With her ability, it was impossible for her to refine the antidote. Looking at Yan Xiao Yi, who had already been corroded by the poison, her entire face was pale, and she was in a coma. Yiqing Luo's heart was in pain. Kitty Lee's charming face turned frosty. Her usual loveliness was nowhere to be seen. She turned her head and glared fiercely at Long Yunjan. "Hand over the antidote." Long Yunjan acted like he didn't hear anything. His eyes were empty as he looked forward. He stood on the spot without moving. Like a puppet that had lost its soul, it was extremely strange. "Hey, I'm asking you a question. Do you really think we can't bear to kill you? I'm telling you, I don't have any feelings of going through thick and thin with you." Kitty Lee roared fiercely, her hair standing on end. "Kitty," Yiqing Luo calmly said as her hand caressed Yan Xiao Yi's pale and icy cold forehead, "stop shouting, he can't hear you." "You can't hear me?" Kitty Lee frowned, not understanding the deeper meaning of this sentence. "Corpse worm. Corpse worm." Suddenly, a scream of terror was heard from the Azura group's side. Nangong Lin jumped up as she stared at the row of densely packed corpse worms which kept charging towards Yiqing Luo's direction. She couldn't help but shriek as she kept on jumping into Yifeng Ru's arms. Yan Xiao Yi's fresh blood had attracted that wave of corpse worms in King Ling's tomb. Numerous corpse worms smelled the fresh blood as they surged over. It made numerous mercenaries' scalps go numb. Even the world group's side had a little restlessness. Chapter 855. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as her stunning face was covered with a layer of frost. She was carrying Yan Xiao Yi in her arms. Yan Xiao Yi's wound was too deep, and because of the poison, Yiqing Luo couldn't help her stop the bleeding. Otherwise, it would be easy to seal the poison in Yan Xiao Yi's body. The wound was too deep and she couldn't move it, otherwise it would cause a hemorrhage. Facing the onslaught of the corpse worms, Yiqing Luo could only choose to face it head-on. Her slender palm flipped as she was about to release her profound qi. Suddenly, a majestic imposing manner pierced through the air and brushed past Yiqing Luo's side. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. She heard a sharp wind sound and saw the group of at least 300 to 400 over corpse worms in front of her had stopped their surging momentum. In an instant, those corpse worms turned into pieces of debris. Not a single one was left. The strong force made everyone raise their eyebrows. That peerless man had an icy cold face as he stood behind Yiqing Luo. The strong wind blew his luxurious purple robe as his black hair swayed along with it. It was Dmo Xian. Such a powerful overlord. Just a lift of his hand, and he was able to exterminate these corpse worms which they were helpless against. Ah Xian! Yiqing Luo glanced over, and when her gaze fell onto Dmo Xian, that frosty and unyielding little face instantly collapsed. Ah Xian! Her expression was helpless as her voice choked. Ah Xian, I don't have the antidote for the purple poppy grass. Xiao Yi can't wait till we leave the Ling King's tomb. Purple poppy grass? This was one of the top 5 poisonous grass in Nirvana realm. Everyone's expression changed as they all congealed towards Long Yunzhan's direction. He actually used such a poisonous grass. He wanted to take Yiqing Luo's life with one sword. I can wait. Dmo Xian nodded his head vigorously. He walked over and half-squatted beside Yiqing Luo. His slender fingers moved the profound dragon ring as he took out a medicinal pill and stuffed it directly into Yan Xiaoyi's mouth. His palm flipped and a burst of profound qi was released from his palm, pushing the medicinal pill into Yan Xiaoyi's body. This is... Yiqing Luo could obviously see that after the pill entered, Yan Xiaoyi's greenish lips gradually turned pale white, and her weak breathing, which was so weak that it could not be heard, also gradually eased up. Soul Return Pill. Dmo Xian retracted his hand and placed it on Yiqing Luo's delicate shoulder. Soul Returning Pill. It was a legendary pill. As long as a human was still breathing, he would be able to preserve his life after taking the Soul Returning Pill. It could be said that it was a rare pill that he had only heard of, but had never seen. She did not expect Dmo Xian to take it out just like that. It gave people the feeling that this soul recovery pill was nothing more than a low-grade medicinal pill that could be found anywhere. Ah Xian, thank you. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips, her heart was filled with gratitude. Dmo Xian didn't hesitate to take out such a precious elixir because of her. How could she repay what she owed him? Giving yourself to me for a lifetime is the best way to repay me. As though he had seen through Yiqing Luo's inner thoughts, he bent down and leaned close to her ear. His voice was low and hoarse. Yiqing Luo's curly long lashes blinked, bringing with it some moisture. All right, the soul returning pill can only preserve her life. If you want her to live on, it's best to get rid of the poison as soon as possible. Dmo Xian rubbed her soft fine hair. Now, you have more important things to do. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips tightly, as her petite figure, which was leaning in Dmo Xian's arms, trembled slightly. She stared at the pale-faced Yan Xiaoyi in her arms, suppressing the dull pain in her heart, as she took a deep breath. That's right, she had more important things to settle. She needed to bring her brothers out of King Ling's tomb as soon as possible. She needed to look for Ghost Doctor to cure Xiaoyi. Chapter 856. Ah Zhan. Yiqing Luo called out. Her voice was soft and gentle, without any hint of complaint. Long Yunzhan was still standing at his original spot with an expressionless face, turning a deaf ear to Yiqing Luo's calls. Yiqing Luo got up slowly. Kitty Li immediately squatted down and supported Yan Xiaoyi. Yiqing Luo slowly walked towards Long Yunzhan's direction as her eyes squinted. Her emotions were as calm as usual. Ah Zhan. She shouted again. In just a few steps, he was already within 3 steps of Long Yunzhan. Everyone's hearts were lifted as they looked at Long Yunzhan nervously. She really couldn't understand. Long Yunzhan wanted to kill her, so why did she still take the initiative to walk in front of Long Yunzhan? Could it be that he still had extravagant hopes for Long Yunzhan? But at this moment, no one opened their mouths to interrupt Yiqing Luo's actions. Ah Zhan, I believe in you. Those words were spoken softly, like pearls falling onto a plate, clear and melodious. Long Yunzhan's body trembled slightly. His azure-blue pupils expanded slightly, deeply reflecting Yiqing Luo's face. A wisp of faintly discernible black mist flashed across the azure eyes. Black gas. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her lips curled into an extremely shallow cold arc. Her guess was right. The reason why Long Yunzhan would suddenly attack her. Dark forces. Dark rats that only know how to hide in the dark. If you really have the ability, come out and get in front of me. You only know how to play tricks in the dark. You deserve to be expelled by the Nirvana realm. Her voice was not loud, but it was definitely not soft either. Every single word was spat out clearly. Like a faint echo, it reverberated in the empty tunnel. Dark forces? The mercenaries of the Killing God group looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. The mercenaries of the World group were first stunned before they exclaimed, "Vice Leader, you mean?" "Leader he." Yi Qing Luo's half-squinted eyes were sharp and penetrating as she swept past the surrounding enemies who could conceal themselves. "Yes, Ah Zhan has been controlled by the dark forces." Yi Qing Luo was almost certain from the gush of dark qi which shot out from Long Yunzhan's eyes. The other hidden faction in the tomb of the Ling King was the Dark Faction. That dark force that appeared and disappeared mysteriously and continuously tricked profound practitioners into signing soul contracts. However, how could Long Yunzhan be controlled by the dark forces? Wasn't everything fine before? Why all of a sudden, ha ha ha. Student Yi, you're really sharp. I did it so secretly, but you were actually able to detect it, as expected of an opponent who gives me a headache. A sharp and proud laughter echoed in the spacious tunnel of the tomb. Soon after, a graceful and gorgeous young girl in a jade-green dress walked out from the darkness. When she saw that person again, Yi Qing Luo was stunned. What made Yi Qing Luo astonished was not that person's identity. Instead, that person's body was emanating a black aura. The smoke-like black gas swirled around the girl in layers. In the blur, the slender figure seemed to be swallowed by the black fog in an instant. Shangguan Lioli? What's wrong with her? What is that black fog around her? The mercenaries of the World group recognized the young lady's appearance with a single glance, and all of them were frightened by the thick black qi coiling around her body. "Tsk, tsk, tsk." Shangguan Liuli tilted her head, and that exquisite face under the black fog revealed a strange and distorted look. "Student Yi, are you very shocked to see me appearing in the Ling King's tomb?" Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. Not to the extent of being shocked. On the contrary, Shangguan Liuli's dark force profound yin qi was so thick which made her even more astonished. Chapter 857. Yi Qing Luo wasn't surprised that Shangguan Liuli was targeted by the dark forces. She vaguely sensed that the dark forces were attacking the people around her or those who were about to approach her. The hatred that Shangguan Liuli had for her was enough for the dark forces to make use of. However, Yi Qing Luo had not expected Shangguan Liuli to be swallowed by the dark forces so thoroughly. In order to surpass her and take her life, he did not hesitate to sell his own soul? Tsk, tsk, tsk. You can still trust your leader when he's facing you with his sword. Should I admire your ridiculous sense of brotherhood, or should I laugh at your stupidity? The corners of Shangguan Liuli's lips curled up into a cold smile. The black aura around her body grew denser and denser. Yes, I was the one who controlled your guild leader. I wanted to see you kill each other. I didn't expect, you actually stopped that little girl from killing your guild leader. She clicked her tongue and said with a face full of pity, "Otherwise, I would be able to watch the show of you killing each other." Shangguan Liuli could control Long Yunzhan? She actually had the ability to control Long Yunzhan? Could it be that Shangguan Liuli had not only signed a soul contract with the dark forces, but also made other deals? Bitch! I'll scratch your face. Kitty Lee angrily clenched her fists, and her hands instantly transformed into two huge black cat claws. Like a nimble cat, she slapped towards Shangguan Liuli. This bitch! How dare he make fun of them? Long Yunzhan was actually obsessed with sex. If it wasn't for her elder sister stopping her, wouldn't she have become the World Group sinner and even her elder sister wouldn't like her anymore? Kitty Lee's jet black pupils suddenly flashed with a bewitching luster. In an instant, the two eyes that were like stars in the sky became extremely demonic. Her emerald eyes were sparkling and translucent, emitting a powerful killing intent. Shangguan Liuli snorted coldly. She raised her black eyes and waved her arms casually. A gust of mysterious yin qi shot out from her arm. It swept up a smoke-like black gas and eroded towards Kitty Li's direction. "Kitty!" Yiqing Luo shouted, "Come back." Kitty Li was no match for Shangguan Liuli. Yiqing Luo had once come into contact with the profound yin qi from Yiqing Qian. It was extremely strange, as if it had its own consciousness. Yiqing Luo could feel it clearly. The mysterious yin energy seemed to be interested in Kitty Li. Did he want to take the opportunity to devour Kitty Li? Yiqing Luo's eyes turned frosty, her palms flipped and the red feather fan swiftly struck out a strong airflow. At the same time, when Kitty Li heard Yiqing Luo's voice, that pair of devilish eyes instantly reverted back to its normal color. Immediately after, Kitty Li's petite body rolled in the air and stood on the rock wall like a cat. The strong airflow which Yiqing Luo struck out collided with the profound yin qi. Rumble! Once again, the tomb shook and the mountains shook. Pieces of rubble collapsed. The surrounding rubble, due to the collision of the two forces, formed a whirlwind in the air. Yiqing Luo flew up and stood firmly in front of Shangguan Liuli as her hands moved, and once again a majestic profound qi was raised. The profound yin qi was instantly forced to retreat. Shangguan Liuli staggered as she retreated a few steps, but the smile on her face became even more strange. "Tsk. No wonder Student Yi is so loved by the Overlord. After your profound jade heart was shattered, you were still able to recover your profound jade heart in such a short period of time, and your profound qi also became so majestic." Chapter 858. Using her profound heart jade as a topic of conversation? Or did he want to drag Dmo Xian down with him? From the profound heart jade that Dmo Xian had nurtured, a profound heart jade was formed and integrated into her heart. This was indeed a type of forbidden technique. However, so what if it was a forbidden technique? Did Dmo Xian look like someone who would follow the rules? Even if the matter of him using the forbidden technique was made known to the world, Dmo Xian would not even frown. Don't forget, Nirvana Realm's #1 palace was Dmo Xian's Emperor Palace. It was known as the #1 evil palace. Would Dmo Xian care about what the secular world thought? Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly. Even if Shangguan Liuli was completely engulfed by the dark force's mysterious yin energy, it would not change the fact that she had big breasts and no brains. This mocking sneer stimulated Shangguan Liuli's nerve. The smile on her face froze and her expression instantly turned sinister as she laughed sinisterly towards Long Yunzhan, the World Group's group leader. "Come, kill your companion and let me see your loyalty." Long Yunzhan, who had been standing there without moving, slowly moved his slender figure. The blue long sword in his hand slashed down towards the World Group's direction without any hesitation. "Leader!" The World Group's mercenaries cried out in panic, but no one dared to stop him as they could only scuttle around in all directions to avoid Long Yunzhan's attack. Long Yunzhan did not show any mercy. The speed at which he swung his sword became faster and faster. For a time, the entire tomb fell into chaos. The mercenaries of the World Group continued to flee. Shangguan Liuli was delighted to see this scene. Her eyes, which had been painted with gold powder, had already turned into a thin golden line from her smile. "Ha ha! Interesting, interesting. Isn't the feeling of being attacked by your beloved and respected guild leader?" His words had just ended when Long Yunzhan's slashing figure had already neared Yiqing Luo. He was also expressionless. The hilt of his sword shimmered as he raised his arm and chopped down. Roar! A sharp beast howl was heard, and Shiju, who was originally flung out to protect Yiqing Luo, pounced forward once again. Even though it was a phantom beast, but when it came to human emotions, it still understood a little. It did not open its mouth to bite Long Yunzhan just because Long Yunzhan attacked its master. It roared and pounced on Long Yunzhan with its huge leopard claws, knocking him away. Long Yunzhan's body hit the rock wall. His face was expressionless, and his gaze was calm. It was as if he could not feel the pain. Shi-ju, come back. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly widened as she immediately opened her mouth to summon Shi-ju back. She saw that Long Yunzhan actually propped up his tottering body and directly attacked Shi-ju. His entire person was like a puppet controlled by his desires. A puppet that had completely lost its soul. Shangguan Liuli's gaze was filled with complacency as he laughed out loud. Yiqing Luo, this is the spirit of brotherhood that you're so fond of, but if you make use of it slightly, he wouldn't even know who you are. Shangguan Liuli, you will pay for your actions today. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with murderous intent as she clenched her fists tightly. His long, narrow, and bewitching eyes caused one's heart to tremble with fear. Disregarding Long Yunzhan's body, he forcefully controlled Long Yunzhan. Just to see them kill each other. Just to make use of Long Yunzhan to kill her. If it wasn't for Yan Xiaoyi who helped her to block that sword, she would not be able to evade it. By then, when Long Yunzhan regained his consciousness and saw this scene, how devastated would he be? Thinking of Yan Xiaoyi, the murderous intent in Yiqing Luo's eyes grew thicker. Chapter 859. Yiqing Luo didn't reply as a trace of viciousness flashed past her eyes. Her 5 fingers opened up as the red feather fan spun around her fingertips, like a leaping flame or a fiery butterfly spreading its wings. But as soon as she turned around, Yiqing Luo's figure disappeared. She appeared silently behind Shangguan Liuli. The red feather fan on her fingertips was like a raging flame as it waved out a strong, profound qi. How could Shangguan Liuli's reaction keep up with Yiqing Luo? Until the profound qi neared, Shangguan Liuli still hadn't noticed it. But Shangguan Liuli wasn't terrified. On the contrary, the expression on her face was calm, as though she wasn't afraid of Yiqing Luo's speed. Just as Yiqing Luo released her profound qi, it directly hit Shangguan Liuli's chest. The profound yin qi that lingered around Shangguan Liuli, under everyone's incredulous gazes, directly wrapped around Yiqing Luo. That's right, wrapped around. Like a densely packed big net, it wrapped around Yiqing Luo's arm. Apparently, Shangguan Liuli had been waiting for Yiqing Luo to fall into the trap. No matter how Yiqing Luo attacked, or how close she got to her, the profound yin qi surrounding her would engulf Yiqing Luo at the fastest speed. Looking at the profound yin qi that was like black smoke, instantly enveloping Yiqing Luo's arm, Shangguan Liuli's complacent and ruthless smile grew thicker. Yiqing Luo's expression was calm, as her narrow eyes narrowed. A boom sound was heard from her palm, a burst of powerful energy suddenly erupted. Like a tide, it actually forcefully controlled that profound yin qi in her hand. Shangguan Liuli's complacent smile instantly froze on her face. What are you trying to do? You know, to panic? Yiqing Luo's narrow eyes were suffused with a trace of coquettish luster. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and despise. Yiqing Luo, who had crossed hands with the profound yin qi, naturally understood that the profound yin qi had its own consciousness. And this consciousness was very likely to be the real mastermind who brought the profound yin qi over from the dark forces. Trying to swallow her? She wanted to see if she was the one being swallowed, or the profound yin qi was controlled by her. Ever since Dmo Xian appeared and formed a new profound jade heart for her, Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that the profound jade heart in her body was different from before. As her strength grew, previously, the profound heart jade could faintly feel that the profound heart jade's strength was not as strong as it wished. And this profound jade heart was clearly more capable of containing and absorbing the profound energy lingering within her body. Dmo Xian had specially forged a higher-grade profound jade heart for her. The child profound heart jade she formed was not her own profound heart jade. Even if his strength reached it, he would not be able to raise the level of his profound jade heart. If the profound heart jade had to rely on Dmo Xian to constantly form and upgrade. Let's not talk about whether it would affect Dmo Xian. Even if it was her, because of the profound heart jade, she would only be able to display half of her strength at most. Her profound heart jade had to be retrieved as soon as possible. Yiqing Luo's eyes darkened as she increased the strength in her hands and broke through the restraint of the profound yin qi. The feather fan in her hands pierced right into Shangguan Liuli's chest. Ah! Shangguan Liuli let out a painful scream from her throat. He felt a sharp pain in his chest, and blood immediately gushed out. She could even hear the sound of the feather fan piercing into her flesh. The surrounding profound yin qi speedily formed a protective cover, enveloping Shangguan Liuli tightly. Following that, it forcefully forced Yiqing Luo out of the protective cover. The World Group Leader. Shangguan Liuli cried out in terror. She had not expected that Yiqing Luo wasn't afraid of the dark force's profound yin qi. Wasn't this profound yin qi able to swallow everything in the world? To Yiqing Luo, it was totally useless. Chapter 860. Hearing Shangguan Liuli's shout, Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth and immediately withdrew the profound qi that was used to break the profound yin qi and swiftly retreated. In the next second, Long Yunzhan's sword qi had already brushed past the place where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier. Long Yunzhan waved his long sword once again as the sword waves surged, with an earth-shattering force, directly charging towards Yiqing Luo. At the same time, Shangguan Liuli moved her palm, and countless black gas spun rapidly in her palm. A powerful wave suddenly erupted from his palm. Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted. Long Yunzhan's participation had unknowingly become Shangguan Liuli's shield. She was bound to be restrained in this battle. Long Yunzhan had already injured Yan Shaoyi. If he hurt her again with Long Yunzhan's personality after he wakes up, I'm afraid, damn it. Shangguan Liuli actually used such a despicable method. Yiqing Luo secretly clenched her teeth, as she had no choice but to dodge, speedily evading their combined attack. Qing Luo, not knowing when, Qiao Jin had already replaced Kitty Li and was holding Yan Shaoyi in his arms. His thick palm gently caressed Yan Shaoyi's pale face, his expression extremely ugly. Especially when he saw Long Yunzhan coordinating with Shangguan Liuli's attacks, striking out at Yiqing Luo, his expression turned even darker. He clenched the gold coin dart in his hand tightly as he gritted his teeth. Qing Luo, if group leader knew that you were injured because of him, he would definitely feel extremely guilty. Don't go easy on him. Qiao Jin was the clearest about Long Yunzhan's feelings towards Yiqing Luo. He believed that Long Yunzhan would rather sacrifice himself than to see Yiqing Luo getting hurt. Especially, he had injured her with his own hands. Yiqing Luo had been worrying about Long Yunzhan, and if she only defended and not attacked, then she would be at a disadvantage, and it would be easy for Shangguan Liuli to take advantage of her. The rest of the world mercenaries nodded in agreement. Under Yiqing Luo's strong request, not only could they not go up to help Yiqing Luo, they even had to maintain a certain distance from Shangguan Liuli. At this moment, he could only stand by the side and worry. The profound yin energy surrounding Shangguan Liuli devoured profound practitioners as food and turned them into her own energy source. There was a high possibility that it would devour the world group's mercenaries. Yiqing Luo naturally didn't dare to take this risk. Long Yunzhan seemed to not know fatigue as he chased relentlessly. The sword waves that slashed out from his hand were also more ferocious with each wave. Suddenly, Shangguan Liuli muttered something. With her as the center, the mysterious yin qi on her body began to spin like a whirlwind. It was getting faster and faster. In the end, it surged towards Long Yunzhan's body. Ah Zhan! Yiqing Luo's pupils dilated as her red feather fan flicked, like a cold glint flickering sharp blade. It shot towards Shangguan Liuli, trying to cut off the profound yin qi which was surging towards Long Yunzhan. However, the profound yin qi seemed to have guessed that Yiqing Luo would do this. A wisp of mysterious yin qi seeped out from the swirling black qi, directly blocking the devouring flame fan. Ugh! With a grunt, Long Yunzhan, who was releasing sword energy, suddenly stabbed his sword into the ground and stumbled to a stop. Behind him, a mass of extremely dense mysterious yin-chi was seeping into his body at an extremely fast speed. Ah Jean! Yiqing Luo was forced to retreat a few steps. That wisp of mysterious yin-chi intentionally obstructed her as it kept splitting out numerous black smoke, attempting to devour her, until the mysterious yin-chi completely entered Long Yunjan's body. The black chi around Shangguan Liuli became thinner by a little. Chapter 861. A large amount of profound yin-chi was transmitted to Long Yunjan. The wound on Shangguan Liuli's chest, which was pierced by Yiqing Luo, lost the healing ability of the profound yin-chi. Instantly, a ball of blood started to gush out. Her face was pale as she raised her hand to cover her chest, using her profound energy to stop the bleeding from the wound. As she raised her head and laughed out loudly, "Yiqing Luo, let me see, will you resist with all your might and kill this group leader of yours, or you can't bear to do it and eventually die under this group leader's sword? Despicable! Shangguan Liuli, you're simply too shameless. Our group leader will wake up. He will not be manipulated by such a hateful woman like you." The World Group's mercenaries were all infuriated. They clenched their fists tightly as their eyes were filled with rage. Right. Group leader will definitely wake up. Group leader. Group leader. Suddenly, some mercenaries started to call out to Long Yunjan, attempting to use their voices to awaken Long Yunjan's rationality. Long Yunjan's strength was already deeply ingrained in their hearts. They believed that Long Yunjan would not completely forget his original intentions because of the so-called profound yin-chi. They wanted to awaken their group leader. One of them raised his head, and the other mercenaries were stunned for a moment but immediately understood what he meant as they started to shout out their group leader loudly. "It's no use. No matter how you shout, he will forever be my puppet." Shangguan Liuli laughed maniacally, as though she had already seen Yiqing Luo being sliced into pieces by her own trusted brothers. "Shout, shout all you want. Let these people, when they were filled with hope, be killed by their own brothers personally. This was the best revenge towards them. Who asked them to be that slut Yiqing Luo's followers?" Dmo Xian stood by the side as his purple robe fluttered and his black hair fluttered without any wind. That pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes were as deep as a lake, as he gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo's every action. He knew that the current Yiqing Luo had already been infuriated by Shangguan Liuli. Yiqing Luo wanted to personally take revenge for Long Yunjan and Yan Xiaoyi. He only needed to stand by the side and watch on how his little Luo grew up. Long Yunjan, who was enriched by the profound yin-chi, became even more vicious. When he raised his eyes to look at Yiqing Luo, his azure blue eyes were already covered with a layer of black fog. It was blurry and indistinct. Yiqing Luo's heart was overwhelmed with shock as she swiftly retreated backwards, gritting her teeth as she roared angrily, "Shangguan Liuli, you actually did this." The fact that Long Yunjan was mysteriously corroded by the profound yin-chi had already made her extremely furious. Shangguan Liuli actually dared to forcefully inject profound yin-chi into Long Yunjan's body in front of her. Her charming eyes were sharp and filled with killing intent. She looked at Shangguan Liuli fiercely. "I can't let you live." With a leap, the feather fan in his hand blossomed like a blazing rose at the tip of his fingers, and he slashed it horizontally towards Shangguan Liuli. Powerful profound energy covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping Shangguan Liuli. However, in the next second, Long Yunjan, who was launching an attack towards Yiqing Luo, his figure flashed as he speedily dashed towards Shangguan Liuli. He actually didn't release the slightest bit of profound chi, using his flesh body to block this attack for Shangguan Liuli. It was obvious that Shangguan Liuli had not given up on her intention to have them kill each other. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth as her fingertips, which were gripping tightly onto the feather fan, had already turned green. She naturally couldn't let Long Yunjan block this attack. Immediately, her feet moved and her palm flipped as she set up another protective cover, blocking in front of Long Yunjian. Immediately, her body was already close to Long Yunjian as she stretched out her hand in an attempt to hook Long Yunjian's arm. Just as she stretched out her hand, that originally expressionless Long Yunjian suddenly flashed as he speedily shifted behind Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 862. Qing Luo. Be careful. When the crowd saw this, they cried out in shock. No one had expected that Long Yunjian would use his own life to lure Yi Qing Luo closer, taking the chance to take action on her. No. To put it more accurately, Long Yunjian's current actions were all controlled by Shangguan Liuli. Shangguan Liuli, that bimbo princess syndrome patient, how could she possibly become so intelligent? Was it Shangguan Liuli who controlled Long Yunjian? Or was it the profound Yin Qi that controlled Long Yunjian? Shangguan Liuli gave out a sinister laugh. Because of Long Yunjian's retreat, and because Yi Qing Luo went to block the momentum of the profound Qi attack, she was stopped by Long Yunjian. With a swoosh sound, Yi Qing Luo released that red profound light, as it shot past, striking Shangguan Liuli's body. However, Shangguan Liuli seemed as though she didn't feel any pain, as she continued to laugh maniacally. Her body flew out as she rolled onto the ground, but she was still laughing. This scene looked extremely strange. A kind of thing called fear started to run amok in everyone's hearts. The air was filled with dust and gravel, as though it was testing everyone's patience. Kill her! Kill her! Shangguan Liuli propped up half her body, as she gave a sinister laugh as she gave the order. Long Yunjian's long sword was pressed against her neck. Unless Yi Qing Luo killed Long Yunjian in reverse. Otherwise, Long Yunjian's sword would take away Yi Qing Luo's head. No matter which outcome, it was the outcome that Shangguan Liuli wanted to see. Long Yunjian's arm moved, as the long sword, which was emitting a blue glow, slashed mercilessly. Ah Zhan! Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold. At this moment, the profound Yin Qi in Long Yunjian's body was getting thicker and thicker. If she didn't wake Long Yunjian up, then Long Yunjian would become the profound Yin Qi's food. Yi Qing Luo clenched her fists tightly, as her footwork was immediately displayed. Her body leaned backwards, as she avoided Long Yunjian's long sword. Perhaps this body of Long Yunjian had already formed a conditioned reflex. The instant Yi Qing Luo moved, Long Yunjian's long sword also followed closely. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed slightly, as she speedily raised her glower flame fan to block against the long sword. Bang! The weapons collided, stirring up a huge wave of air. The cracks on the ground had caused countless mercenaries to lose their footing. Long Yunjian was expressionless as he continued to charge forward, not minding whether his long sword would be broken by Yi Qing Luo's glower flame fan. He only blindly pushed against Yi Qing Luo's glower flame fan, pressing forward. Yi Qing Luo retreated little by little. Damn the dark forces! It was obvious that he wanted Long Yunjian to gamble with his life. Yi Qing Luo tightened her grip on the fan handle and swiftly struck out two powerful wind blades. What should I do to force the profound Yin energy out of Long Yunjian's body? Diamo Xian must know. Her gaze coincidentally brushed past Diamo Xian, who was standing by the side. His doting gaze had been following her closely. Yi Qing Luo's heart suddenly trembled. Right, she had once said that she would rely on her own efforts to stand at the pinnacle of the world, to walk side by side with Diamo Xian. She could not always rely on Diamo Xian's power. Wasn't it because Diamo Xian believed in her ability that he stood by the side and allowed her to display her abilities? How could she possibly let Diamo Xian down? Yi Qing Luo's gaze instantly turned resolute, as her palms flipped and her body had already closed in on Long Yunjian. She must first awaken Long Yunjian, before she could deal with Shangguan Liuli. Yi Qing Luo sorted out her thoughts and was just about to restrict Long Yunjian's actions, taking the opportunity to force out the profound Yin energy from his body. But unexpectedly, Long Yunzhan also moved towards the sound. Immediately he crashed into Yiqing Luo. Chapter 863. A dull creak sound was heard. Yiqing Luo acutely sensed that her back had bumped into something. She speedily released Long Yunzhan and pushed him backward. This force instantly made Yiqing Luo's body sink backwards. Not knowing why, that rock wall actually split open and swallowed Yiqing Luo entirely. Lil Luo'er. Such a huge change made Dmo Xian's calm expression congealed. He quickly rushed forward as he stretched out his hand to touch the spot where Yiqing Luo had disappeared. What his tentacles touched, other than the branded rock wall, he didn't feel anything. Overlord, Vice Group Leader He. The World Group's mercenaries behind him also rushed forward as their faces were filled with worry. Dmo Xian's face congealed as he didn't respond to their words. A pair of long and narrow eyes like obsidian quietly stared at this rock wall. After a long time, he directly raised his hand and struck out a strong palm wind, blasting towards the direction of the rock wall. A burst of earth quaked and the mountains shook as gravel shattered. But he didn't see any signs of the hole which had swallowed Yiqing Luo earlier. Dmo Xian's expression turned even darker and steely green. Yiqing Luo's body kept on rolling down as pieces of uneven gravel pricked her slender brows. After rolling for a few rounds, she finally crashed onto a piece of rock wall as her body stopped. A thick incense burner's smell instantly filled her nostrils. The surroundings were pitch black, and even with Yiqing Luo's night vision, she could only see a blurry outline. She rubbed her body, which was hurting from the collision, as she creased her brows and sat up straight. Just as she was about to get up, she suddenly felt an inexplicable burning sensation in her heart, which instantly filled her chest. Yiqing Luo's legs turned soft as she fell onto the ground. Bursts of scorching burning feeling was even more unbearable as compared to the profound heart jade's unusual reaction, so unbearable that she couldn't endure it at all. What was going on? Dmo Xian had just helped her to form the profound heart jade. How could it possibly cause a backlash so quickly? Yiqing Luo panted heavily as her 5 fingers clasped onto her heart, wishing she could dig her heart out to relieve this pain. Lass, don't let your imagination run wild. Just as Yiqing Luo was having this thought, an anxious voice rang in her mind. Old Man Tsang said in a deep voice, "Girl, calm your mind and maintain your rationality." Yiqing Luo's breathing was heavy as she shut her eyes tightly. Her pearly white teeth bit her tender lips tightly. Old Man Tsang, what exactly is going on? This unbearable feeling was hundreds of times more unbearable than before. She had endured all kinds of pain without batting an eyelid. She had also experienced the feeling of the place where her profound heart jade was nurtured being scorched by raging flames. But however, he was unable to endure the pain of being torn apart by the raging flames. No, that's not right. Yiqing Luo's pupils dilated as a strange feeling surged from the bottom of her heart. No, it wasn't burning her. It wasn't tearing her apart. Instead, it was an extremely intense sensation. It seemed to be summoning her to do something. That's right. It was a reaction. It was the feeling of being summoned. After falling into this strange place, her heart felt extremely uncomfortable. It was as if a mysterious force was summoning her and inviting her to join it. Realizing this point, Yiqing Luo obviously felt that tearing pain had gradually disappeared. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes and swept a few glances in the darkness. Immediately suppressing the restlessness in her heart, she followed the direction of the summoning and groped her way forward. She didn't know how long she had walked, but the surroundings looked like a long tunnel in the middle layer, with no path in sight.